Funding has been confirmed for the HSE to carry out a feasibility study of the site proposed for the Lifford Community Nursing Unit. The site is part of a council-owned plot of land on the outskirts of Lifford, which will also see social housing and business units developed there. Councillor Jerry Crawford says this is very significant.
It will allow for a full capital submission to be submitted, and in the HSE's own words, this is very positive news. I agree with that. Lifford Community Hospital has been on the agenda for very many years now, very, very often in a negative light, very strongly supported and corner fought by the Friends of Lifford Hospital. I myself have raised it on numerous occasions at HSE. It's something we just won't let go of, and this seems to be a very positive step.
The Donegal Donkey Sanctuary has launched a fundraising campaign as it is running dangerously low on supply. 98 donkeys are currently being cared for at the facility, with the number of foster homes becoming scarce. Manager of the facility, Danny Curran, says they have been facing additional pressures over the past number of years.
Since the pandemic, we've seen an increase in the number of donkeys coming to us. You know, you've got the pandemic and then the cost of living crisis. We take in a lot of donkeys now from, house repossessions and marriage breakups and people immigrating, and then we always have the cruelty cases going on as well.
Weather now cloudy and wet this morning with outbreaks of rain, brightening up this afternoon with sunny spells and showers developing, highest temperatures of 13 or 14 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with news again at 10 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
Happy news from Aldi. We've topped the leaderboard at the National Parenting Product Awards with 22 wins, making us the most awarded retailer. There were golds for our organic Mamia baby food range, Mamia Ultra Dry Junior Plus nappies size 5 plus, and Mamia Premium Newborn Mini size 2 nappies voted the nation's best nappies by parents in Ireland. So, Mum and Dad, not using Mamia nappies yet? Whew, could be time for a change. Aldi, every day amazing.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio.
And a very good morning to you. This is the 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio. It's Donal Kavanagh standing in for Greg on the programme this morning. As we say, some interesting things happening on the programme this week. Tell you more about that as this programme goes on. We have, as ever, a lot to talk about on the show today, so do please stick with us. But as we always say, no matter how much we have prepared, no matter how much we have on our agenda, that all gets put to one side based on your comments and your perceptions and your perspectives and your contributions, because it's your input that makes this show what this show is. And what this show is, we like to think, is the best show of its kind in the northwest of Ireland and indeed beyond. If you want to call us, you can do so. It's 074 9125,000, 00353 374 9125,000 if you're outside of the dialing area. Anya taking your calls, and Donna Marie as well. Donna Marie also producing the show this morning. You can text us or WhatsApp us. 086 60 25,000 is the number there. You can make contact via social media at Highland Radio on Twitter. It's Highland Hub on Facebook. We're also on Instagram, Snapchat and all other manner of social media doodads. You can watch the show live, of course. We're broadcasting live on our Facebook pages, the Highland Radio and Highland Radio News and Sport Facebook pages. You can also watch the show on our YouTube channel, Highland Radio Ireland. So if you want to see me in all my non-glory, you can absolutely do so. And what's really good about that actually is when we take calls in on Zoom, as we do frequently over the course of the programme, you can actually watch the Zoom calls as they unfold as well. So we suddenly become a TV programme all of a sudden, which is very interesting and gratifying. And from my point of view, the great thing means I can just put the screen on the person to whom I am speaking to, and that is all the better for everyone. Let's start with the papers. It's a Tuesday morning, which means we have the Tuesday edition of the Donegal Democrat. Save Our School. Gaelscoil fights back. Parents, staff and pupils of Gaelscoil Nagara have mounted a determined fight back against the decision to withhold funding for the new school building. Siobhan McNamara writes that after 24 years in prefabs and numerous delays, all stages had been approved, and we've had this on news and on the show indeed over the past number of weeks on a number of occasions. Everything was ready to rock, and suddenly, because of a lack of funds, it was decided a number of projects across the country would be stalled. Nagara is one of those projects which has been stalled, when the local community are saying, we've waited long enough, we're not taking this lying down. And there's a lovely perspective on this. There was a recent announcement from the Minister that free books would be provided for school children. And there is a lovely picture of one of the pupils and her teacher standing outside the prefabs with a big sign saying, "Where is our school?" and a big stack of school books. And they're effectively saying, "Thanks for the school books, Minister. Where are we going to put them? Because we don't have a school to put them in." And that's a very clever way of drawing attention to the plight there. Front of the Derry Journal, you'll have heard this on news yesterday. Micah Redress poll pledge. 84% of homeowners surveyed by the Micah Action Group say they will vote in the next election based on how well or poorly the government has put in place solid measures to commit to 100% redress. MEG Chairperson Lisa Hone outlined how multiple submissions have been made to government in relation to draft regulations, and many issues still to be resolved there. Irish Independent this morning. Main story, state sitting on enough land for more than 60,000 homes. You'll have heard this on news with Michaela over the course of the morning. Affordable housing sites spanning 10 counties. Philip Ryan outlines the Land Development Agency has identified state-owned property in 5 cities and 5 regional centres. Letterkenny, one of those regional centres. Sligo, one of those centres as well, actually, where the state could hand land over to the Land Development Agency and it could get on with building homes. And certainly people will be looking at that with interest. Long discussion in Donegal County Council chamber yesterday. By coincidence, you'll have heard Councillor Jerry McMonigal on news today as well. And the council discussing the homeless plan and how Donegal County Council is to tackle both emergency homelessness in the county, and also lots of discussion too about the provision of social housing and the eviction ban. The council, as a number of councils have been doing, the council did pass a motion calling for the eviction ban to be maintained. That motion moved by Councillor Albert Doherty. The motion was passed. Now, whether the government is going to listen to what Donegal County Council has to say and change its own mind, that's questionable, to say the least. But the council still took that decision yesterday, and the issue of the eviction ban still very much a live issue in Donegal County Council and in chambers, I suspect, right across the country. I suspect there's very similar motions being moved pretty much at local authority level in every county in this country at this point in time, because this is one of the real national issues, the effects of which are being felt literally everywhere. The other story on the front of the Independent this morning, Kerry Baby, key DNA from close relative of baby John. DNA at the centre of the Kerry Baby case was voluntarily handed over by a person who Gardaí believed to be a close relative of the deceased baby. This was a breakthrough which prompted the investigation team to make the high-profile arrests of a couple in Kerry last week. Now, as we heard, and we discussed this yesterday, even if the parentage of baby John has been proven, and it could take some time before that is achieved, obviously DNA samples have been taken. They're awaiting the analysis of those samples, and they're going to be analysed. Believe you me, they're going to be analysed more carefully than any DNA sample was ever analysed, because this case has been so controversial and has been so awful for so long in this country that nothing is going to be done on the Kerry Baby's case and on the case of baby John until every I is dotted and every T is crossed 3 times, triple checked 3 times, and then checked again another 4 times just to be sure. Also a picture of Nathan Collins, his last gasp header on goal that was saved by the French goalkeeper last night in the closing stages of Ireland's match against France. That could so easily have been a 1-1 draw. And after questions being asked of the Irish soccer team in recent times, I think a lot of those questions were answered very, very forcefully and very, very comprehensively in the Aviva Stadium last night. I know a number of people had travelled up to the game from Donegal, not least, actually, you'll recall we spoke to Brendan Devaney yesterday previewing the DL debate, and Brendan was en route to Dublin with his nephew at the time for the match, and I hope he and his nephew had an absolute blast. I'm sure that was real edge of the seat stuff to be sitting at, and a lot of people saying this morning how proud they are to say they're Irish fans, because there is certainly that team has got its mojo back, and long may that remain the case. The big worry now, of course, is that can they keep up that momentum and can they keep up that strength against the teams like Greece? Because, you know, if they can replicate that against Greece, then you know what? They could be going places. A photograph on the front of the Irish Times, actually from the other angle, and it shows actually how close that goal was. It just shows the French goalkeeper Mike Magnan making that save that denied Nathan Collins the equaliser in the 90th minute. Also on the front of the Irish Times, the main story again, review finds scope for 60,000 homes on state land. Statutory inquiry into Defence Forces abuse likely. A report will be published on the basis of claims of bullying, harassment and sexual abuse of Defence Force members, and that full statutory inquiry should be established. That's according to the Independent Review Group, which was established in 2021. The report is understood to make for difficult reading and to detail patterns of inappropriate and illegal behaviour within the military. Also, in international news, Mark Weiss in Jerusalem writes that Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, has delayed controversial plans to weaken the judiciary following mass protests across the country and a general strike. He said he had ordered a time out on the proposal. Let's look at the Irish Daily Mail this morning. The Irish Daily Mail, as coalition faces a crucial confidence motion, the supply of new houses has slumped by almost 20%. New blow on home building is the main headline there. The story by Craig Hughes and Brian Mahan. And they basically say the coalition has been dealt a fresh blow ahead of tomorrow's crucial confidence motion. The supply of new homes has slumped by almost 20%, around 6,000 fewer new homes available than at the same time last year. And given that the whole confidence motion in the government is being sparked by the response to the housing crisis, and in particular the refusal to maintain the evictions ban for those in rental accommodation, that will not be music to the government's ears. Now, we are hearing this morning in other areas that a lot of members of the regional independents and people that the government are dependent on for support, they are indicating that they will not be supporting the Labour motion. So one would have thought the government is likely to survive this vote this week, and it will keep on going. Now, if it keeps on going as a limping lame duck, or it keeps on going with a huge groundswell of support behind it, remains to be seen. I suspect the former may more be the case, and certainly the vote will not be as comprehensive, I suspect, as the eviction ban vote was last week. We'll see how that pans out. Also on the front of the Irish Daily Mail, cancer test backlog due to staff shortages. There is a significant backlog in cancer test results due to a shortage of medical scientists. That means some anxious patients are waiting up to 6 months to get potentially life-altering test results. That's according to the Academy of Clinical Science and Laboratory Medicine. Its president, Bernie Quirk, said it's a major concern that 13% of medical scientist posts are unfilled. And we're hearing that right across the health sector at present, so many unfilled posts, and that is a matter of serious concern. Irish Daily Star this morning. Killer kept Annie bag as souvenir. It's DNA jackpot, according to a top cold case cop, and Larry Murphy must be quizzed. Annie McCarrick's leather bag, we're told, could be crucial to determining what happened to her. That case was upgraded, you'll recall, last Friday, I think it was, from a missing persons case to a murder case. So one can only assume that Gardaí have got new perspectives and some new information to hand, and we'll see how that one pans out. Also on the front of the Star, on a side bar there, Bailey to be evicted from home. Writer Ian Bailey is said to be evicted from his West Cork home. The 64-year-old, who was questioned twice over the murder in 1996 of Sophie Toussaint Duplantier, but was never charged, received a motion to quit before Christmas. It'll be enforced with the imminent ending of the eviction ban. Looking at the Irish Sun this morning, and that's the main story. Bailey's eviction hell, Ian's homeless fears as ban ends. That story there on the front of the Irish Sun. Also, for a fingertip from joy, another very good photograph there of the French keeper making that save, which denied Ireland an equaliser in the dying minutes of that game against France in the Aviva Stadium last night. And finally, the Irish Daily Mirror, Kenny's heroes feeling bleu. Miracle save breaks Irish hearts, and ex-cop's theory. Killer took missing Annie's bag. Former detective believes it was kept as a trophy after her murder. That's Alan Bailey, who had been probing the case at the time. They're the papers. That's what's happening in the world of our newspapers this morning. As we said, if you want to make contact with us, you can do so 086 65,000 for your text, or 086 60 25,000, for your text or WhatsApp messages, 074 91 25,000 if you want to give us a ring on the phone. We'll be back after this short break.
The newspapers are courtesy of Kelly Centra Mountaintop Letterkenny, the C-Store National Large Forecourt of the Year for 2022.
Do you currently have vacancies that need urgently filled? Have you tried various ways to find new staff but didn't succeed? Let Highland Radio help you source and fill your current vacancies in the most cost-effective way. Simply sign up to our new job spot and we will tell our listeners about your vacancies both on air and online. Every Monday, Wednesday and Friday during our primetime shows, we will broadcast the latest job opportunities across the Northwest and into counties Derry and Tyrone. All job listings will be available online at highlandradio.com. For more information, contact the advertising team on 07491 25322 or email advertising@highlandradio.com. Highland Radio, we're here for you.
There's a big freeze on the way, and it's good news for anyone thinking about changing their home energy. Because Calar are putting their prices on ice with a 2-year price freeze when you switch to Calar LPG. A cleaner alternative to oil, Calar Gas is ideal for cooking, hot water and heating your home. So, switch today at calargas.ie, and very soon the only thing feeling the chill will be your bill. Terms and conditions apply.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
It's 17 and a half minutes past 9 o'clock. You may well have heard over the course of the day that the Donegal Donkey Sanctuary is appealing for funds and has launched a major drive because they are running short of money, not least because of the impact of a very popular recent film. Let's discuss this and other issues with Danny Curran, who's the manager of the sanctuary. Danny, good morning.
Good morning, Donal, and thank you for having us on your show this morning.
It's our pleasure, Danny, and we know that the sanctuary's been there for many, many years now and has done some great work. One of the things you're finding, Danny, and let's take this one first because I find this somewhat fascinating. Anyone who's seen the Banshees of Inisherin will know that Colin Farrell's character has a donkey of whom he is very fond. Don't want to give any spoilers to people that haven't sort of watched the film yet, but the donkey sort of features in the plot of the film. And you reckon that's actually led to an increase in people looking for donkeys as pets, and that in turn has led to more donkeys coming to you?
Yeah, well, I haven't actually seen the film myself, but I've heard enough about it. Like, Colin Farrell apparently has this donkey, Jenny, and a lot of people look at that there, but what they don't realise is that's a highly trained donkey, a very calm, quiet donkey, and they think then that this would be an ideal pet for a child or maybe for themselves to have. Now, there is legal requirements. You have to have an equine number, an acre of ground, a stable, and a lot of people sort of rush out, buy these donkeys, and the next thing they realise they don't have all the things that they need, and they don't have the time, and they don't have the skills. Now, one of the things I will say is, if you're thinking of buying a donkey, come to the sanctuary, talk to us. We'll take you through all the steps and everything that's there, and maybe you'll think this is for you, and maybe you'll realise you don't have the proper equipment and the training to do that.
How many donkeys do you have on site at the moment?
We are feeding directly 98 donkeys at the minute, and to date we have over 800 rehomed, and we have, I was just checking there a wee while ago, we have 37 donkeys waiting to come in that we don't have room for.
And presumably when you rehome them, you will rehome them to people who are responsible. You're going to be very careful to vet them to make sure that that donkey is going to a good home and that all the criteria you've outlined there are met, and that the most important one of all is met, that donkey is going to go to a home where it's going to be cared for and it's going to be loved.
Oh yeah, we have a lot of rehoming rules, and some people contact us and they say that we possibly have too many rules, but what you have to bear in mind is a lot of the donkeys come to us and they've had a hard life and they've been starved and they've had a lot of cruelty. So we want to make very sure that when they move on from us that, they're going to a proper home. And the other thing is we never lose ownership of them. Even though somebody fosters the donkey, it always remains that it's still under the care of Donegal Donkey Sanctuary.
Yeah. In terms of the actual cost of keeping a donkey, when you take a donkey into the sanctuary, you're not just taking a donkey that you have to feed a bit of hay to. You're taking in a donkey that's going to incur veterinary bills, may need comprehensive care if that donkey's been abused, and you're taking on the responsibility for every aspect of that donkey's well-being, and that's going to go way, way beyond just chucking a bit of hay into a trough.
Yeah, if we take in a stallion, it has to be gelded. you've got other costs, farrier costs, the vet costs. We even have to employ an equine dentist to make sure that their teeth are looked after properly. You've got worming costs. There's a lot of people will say to me, "Oh, you're squeezing one more donkey," but what they don't realise is even like we have to microchip them, passport them, all the legal requirements have to be met, and then that donkey could be here for 2 or 3 years to get it tamed down and adjusted and ready to go to a new home.
It's clear, Danny, that you and the family and others involved with the sanctuary have a great love of the animals, but what you don't have is a bottomless pocket to match that love with. You've got to have funding, you've got to have support. How are you managing to fund it at the moment, and what sort of pressures are you coming under because of the extra workload and because of the fact that there are more and more donkeys now in need of help and in need of sanctuary?
Well, we've been here for a good number of years, Donal, so we do have a following of supporters. But because of the pandemic and the cost of living crisis and, the spiraling costs of diesel and even veterinary medicines have gone up in price, a lot of things are there. So, we're just finding it harder and harder, and there is more donkeys. You've got house repossessions, people losing land, people immigrating. All them things factor in, and we end up with more animals, and it's just getting tougher and tougher. And as you say, we don't have a bottomless pit. We have to work with what we have. What a lot of people don't realise is we are actually like a fully functioning farm. We've got a tractor, a loader, a quad, and all them things need to be maintained, looked after. But unlike other farms, we don't sell an end product. We take in the donkeys, we repair them, make them better, tend to all their needs, and then we rehome them out, and we just wait for the next one to come along, and there's always plenty more to come along. So it's getting harder and harder all the time.
And I presume you're taking donkeys in from far more than just the county of Donegal. They're probably coming to you at this stage from far and wide, because you have that reputation for being a good sanctuary and for being an area where a donkey can be safe.
2 weeks ago, I was in Kilkenny lifting 3 donkeys, and we try to work from Dublin to Galway North, but it just depends where they come up and how desperate the situation is. And we work through other organisations as well. So sometimes you could have an organisation that's been called out to pick up 3 horses, and there's a donkey there as well. And we don't have the facilities for horses or dogs, and they don't have the facilities for donkeys. So we step in then and take that donkey off these other organisations as well.
So there's a whole network nationwide of support organisations, and you're at its centre.
Well, we do our best, Donal. That's the handiest way to say it. We can't solve every problem that's out there to do with donkeys, but we try. That's all we can do.
In terms, Danny, of the way people can support you, obviously you have one-off events, but you've launched an online funding campaign now, and how can people give you support if they so choose to do?
Well, if you go to our Facebook page, there's links there to the GoFundMe campaign, or you can go to our website. I think there's a link on Facebook to our website. You can donate there, or you can call to the sanctuary, visit the donkeys, and make a donation while you're here.
Yeah, and another caller has said, the cost of living is hitting everyone. Someone's saying, and look, they say, much as people would like to support you, sometimes they just can't, because they just don't have, the resources to actually do that. And, another caller saying, look, plenty of us have donkeys, but there's no collecting money for us all year. Well, I think that's a fair enough point. If you have a donkey and you're keeping a donkey, that's absolutely your own business. But what Danny and his colleagues are doing are trying to take donkeys in and make them safe when others have abandoned them. And I think it's fair to say, Danny, you have 97 that you're feeding at the moment, with another 35 outstanding that you could take into the sanctuary right now.
Yeah, there's always a queue of donkeys waiting to come to us. I would love if we could wave a magic wand, buy more land, build more stables, and be able to solve that problem. But we just have to take everything one step at a time. We're here now 12 years, and we have a full facility built here. We need more facilities. But as I say, the pandemic, the cost of living crisis, that just sprung up and has set us very, very far back, and we just have to try and come forward from that again.
Now, the caller is saying, look, how can we donate? We'd love to help. Well, as you said, go onto Facebook or just go and search Donegal Donkey Sanctuary. That'll bring you to the Facebook page, the website, and ultimately the GoFundMe page. Danny, thanks indeed for speaking to us this morning. We wish you well, and, well done in all you've done up to now, because I know, and I have had the pleasure of meeting you and some others involved over the years, and, I know the great work that's done, and I know the love that's behind that work, and it's very important that it's underwritten by love, and I think there is no doubt about it that the Donkey Sanctuary in Donegal is a place where animals will find love, and that maybe, particularly to an animal that's been abused, that's as important as the food and the water sometimes.
Yeah, thank you for having us on, Donal. It's great to get a chance to promote our work.
Yep.
And the one thing I always say to people say it's work. I enjoy what I do. I love animals, and I find every day coming here to be very, very easy to do. We do deal with some bad cases and some terrible sights, but most of our work is very enjoyable.
Danny, thank you very much indeed. It's been a pleasure. You take care.
Thank you.
That's Danny there from the Donkey Sanctuary in Lifford. Caller says, regarding the Donkey Sanctuary, glad that's clarified. Initially, I thought you were referring to the council office in Lifford. So says the caller. We'll say no more and move on, I think, at this point. Another caller says, Danny and his family are amazing people. I would urge anyone to support them with a donation if they can at all. Thank you, Donegal Donkey Sanctuary, for all that you do. Okay, I'm telling you what we're going to do now. We are going to have a discussion in a few moments about the promotion of job offerings through the GAA. It's an interesting concept. We'll be speaking to somebody about that in just a moment. Right now, though, we are going to take a very short break.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
We're sorry to inform you of yet another delay. No, not the train this time, it's John. He's delayed getting his eyes tested. If he's accidentally sat in your lap, knocked over your suitcase, or kissed you instead of his wife, we can only apologise. John has now been informed that eye tests and glasses from the €69 range at Specsavers are free with PRSI or medical card, so there's no need to delay booking an appointment. Find out more at specsavers.ie. John, can you get off my lap?
Wheezing or sneezing? When you're feeling under the weather, your local Brennan's Pharmacy can help. Rest, fluids and simple pain relief are the most effective remedies for a common cold. But if you find that you're coughing so hard that your chest hurts, or if it's disrupting your sleep, just ask our pharmacist to recommend the best solution for a speedy recovery. For all your pharmacy needs and advice you can trust, we're here for you at Brennan's Pharmacy, Buncrana, Clonmany and Creeslaw.
Being a Garda will change your life. A few years ago, I attended a sudden death incident and had to work with the victim's wife and child. It was traumatic for the family, but you just absorb the trauma yourself. You stay strong so they don't have to. They had no family in Ireland, so when the boy's birthday came around, I organised for Gardaí, Coast Guard and the fire service to drive along the coast where he lived to show that we were all thinking of him in what was a really difficult time. I work in a close-knit community and we look after each other, uniform or not. His birthday matters to me as much as my own. Being a Garda is a really tough job, but it is definitely a job worth doing. You can apply now at publicjobs.ie.
And of course, we'll have our Garda Community Information slot later in the programme. That's coming up at around about 8-9 minutes past 10 or thereabouts. So we'll be doing that later on in the show. As I say, also, because tomorrow the show is coming from Brussels, and as I say, more about that over the course of the programme. Because tomorrow is coming from Brussels, it means our usual Wednesday slot with Kieran O'Donnell Business Matters will take place today instead. So we'll have Business Matters this morning at around about 11:30 rather than tomorrow morning. Now, also want to talk about a business issue now, because Kevin Meehan is the Business Development Manager with the GAA, and I'm delighted to say Kevin is joining us now on Zoom to discuss a rather interesting idea that's been promoted by the organisation. Kevin, good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks very much for having us on.
It is our pleasure, Kevin. You're promoting jobs through the GAA, the idea being that there are businesses in local areas that have jobs to be filled. The GAA has access to a large network of young people, many of whom will be seeking employment, and let's be honest, many of whom will want to stay in the local area, and the GAA want them to stay in the local area, to play for their club, to play for their parish, and hopefully ultimately to play for their county. And one of the ways of doing that is to try and ensure that jobs that are available locally goes to people within the organisation. It's a very interesting concept.
Yeah, thanks very much. I suppose it's important to say, just when you mention the Business Development Manager title with the GAA, GAAworks.ie is our business. We're as such a private business, separate from the official GAA, if you like, but still working in the whole area, obviously, of GAA. So, yeah, as you say, what we're trying to achieve is, I suppose, to make people, and in particular members of GAA clubs across the country, aware of the great opportunities that there are within local communities in every county, in the hope that it will keep people connected to their community, living in their community and working in their community.
From the point of view of what's being done, and we know there was so much discussion in the past about immigration and about communities being decimated, and one of the ways that traditionally got sort of exemplified, as it were, was in the fact that local football teams were decimated, local hurling teams were decimated in hurling counties, and you had areas where parishes and clubs at times could not put teams on a pitch anymore because there weren't enough young local people left in that area. Now, we're told so often that there are jobs to be found, and a lot of the time people don't necessarily know where to find them. So this may be a way of addressing that particular issue, that people in their own local area can find work in their own local area.
Definitely, and that's exactly what we are trying to achieve. So I suppose our website, GAAworks.ie, allows a business to advertise not only their product or service, but also any career opportunities that they have. And it allows them to specify the area that the job is in, and then the searcher on our website, or the applicant, if you like, would see where those jobs are listed by an easy-to-use filter that lets them check what county it's in, what job category it's in, and see the options that are available. So at the moment we have there's 142 businesses registered on our platform, and there's 178 live career opportunities there. So and that ranges from apprenticeship opportunities to part-time jobs right up to full-time senior positions. So we're really trying to place an emphasis that there are, I suppose, a huge variety of job opportunities out there, not only for more experienced people, but for young people who may be leaving college, maybe leaving second level school and have no interest in going to college. So there's certainly a big interest in, as I said, the variety of job opportunities that are out there.
As you say, you're independent of the GAA itself, but your motto is "We are all supporters," and I presume you work closely with the GAA. And for instance, you'll get you'll get promotion in programs, and clubs themselves will be promoting what you're doing on a local level, just to try and make sure that this message is getting out to as many as possible. And it's interesting you used the phrase the GAA community, and if there was anything that sort of did embody the word community, surely it's the GAA.
Absolutely. It's probably, as you mentioned earlier, there has been some communities right throughout the country, you could say, in some ways decimated by the removal of whether it's a post office or a bank. And the GAA club is very much still the focal point, that I suppose you could say the only focal point that is left in some rural towns and villages across the country. So I think, I suppose from our side, we're really trying to place an emphasis that it's important to keep these GAA clubs active, keep people that are involved with these GAA clubs employed and living locally, so that they survive. And certainly, as you say, albeit not official GAA, we are working closely with each of the county boards that we come into contact with. So the plan is to take the initiative nationwide. At the moment, we have launched in four counties, and our first port of call in each county is to work directly with the county board and with the local clubs, who thankfully to date have been really positive towards the initiative. As you say, it's in their best interests to keep people connected in the local community, and that will hopefully keep them active members of the GAA community as well.
If businesses that do have jobs want to get in touch, how can they do so?
They can check out GAAworks.ie, have a look through the website. They may also email us, info@GAAworks.ie, and we have a presence on social media and all the usual platforms there as well.
Kevin Meehan, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us this morning. That's Kevin Meehan, Business Development Manager with the GAAworks.ie. That project hopefully will see more people stay in their own local areas, and hopefully it'll see more local people staying to play with their clubs, to play with their county, and like the rising tide, it'll lift all boats. Kevin, thanks very much indeed.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Excellent. That's Kevin there from GAAworks.ie, and that's the website to go to if you're a business that has something to promote, or indeed if you are seeking employment. That's the place where you can go as well. Now, I just want to take a look at some comments that were left over from issues we discussed yesterday. Our Monday focus was a discussion on over-the-counter medicine, and specifically addiction to over-the-counter medicine. And one caller says, it's doctors that need to be educated. It's very hard to get a doctor's appointment nowadays, and when you do, sometimes they think nothing of handing out big boxes of pain medication, and that may include Solpadeine and similar drugs that can be difficult. You can still buy them over the counter in a pharmacy, but someone wondering, is the actions of doctors one of the issues here? Now, also, a caller saying, we discussed the eviction ban, obviously. A caller says the eviction ban was illegal, terrible, every landlord will sell and only the mega landlords will rent houses at top rents. That interview with the Fine Gael councillor was one-sided and a poor interview. By the way, I'm not a landlord. I think that the interview with the Fine Gael councillor that they're saying is that a person was a man and his wife and their children were taken from their rented home in the middle of the night, and they were thrown onto the street by a group of men who illegally went into their home at a time when an eviction ban is in place. This came without warning. This came without notice. As far as I can see on the face of it, every rule in letter as well as in spirit was broken. So if that interview came across as being critical of and condemnatory of what happened to that family in Bundoran, well, I don't have a problem with that. I'm sorry, but that is the situation. Now, I want to go to line one because there is a very important documentary coming up on TG Cahar. It's being broadcast tomorrow night, and Circa Nick Ohan is the producer. Circa, apologies for butchering your name, but a very good morning to you.
You're okay, no problem. They used to miss me on the roll call as well, so you're not the first person.
Yeah, I would have been. I would have been inclined to say Nick Ogan, but it's Nick Ogan, is it, or it's Ohagan? Ohagan.
Yeah. So on this coming Wednesday, the second part to the documentary series, this is the third series of Maru in Our Mask, which goes out on TG Cahar at 9:30 on Wednesday. And in this documentary, we're looking at the story of the disappearance of Arlene Arkinson.
And that's for the older of our listeners, that's a story that we literally have been covering on this radio station for the guts of 30 years. She went missing in 1984, last seen attending a disco in Bundoran, or en route to Bundoran, and originally from Castlederg, not seen since, believed to have gone missing in Donegal. And it's one of those stories that is still as big a mystery now as it was on day one, even though there have been various theories and people questioned and so on and so forth. We still don't know the truth.
Yeah, well, I suppose in some parts of the truth emerged or were sealed, I suppose, and on the 21st of July in 2021, at an inquest from the coroner, a coroner's inquest finally concluded, and with that conclusion, the coroner, Brian Sherrod, reported in his findings that Robert Howard had killed or had murdered Arlene, likely she was likely sexually assaulted as well, and that her body was likely to be in and around the Castlederg area. So that kind of put to bed a lot of rumours that had been, and suspicions that had been wrongfully circulating in the early days of the investigation, and these rumours had kind of brought attention to the Arkinson family themselves, and had even, kind of wrongly implicated Kathleen Arkinson and her partner in the disappearance of Arlene at the time.
I was actually there on the day that officers of what was then the RUC actually started digging up Kathleen Arkinson's garden. and I was there on the day. And I spoke, actually, that day I spoke to Arlene's father. And the question Arlene's father was asking on that day was, what about Robert Howard? What about Robert Howard? So that the first time I heard the name Robert Howard actually was from Arlene Arkinson's father on the day that the RUC were actually digging up her sister's garden.
Wow. Yeah, but it's crazy. Like, when you think about it now, you're a family who's, for Kathleen Arkinson, this was her 15-year-old sister who had just turned 15 that April, and so she was a child, and she's missing. Their mother had died when Arlene was 11, so the family was already kind of upheaved in some ways, you're struggling with grief and you're struggling to find answers of where your younger sister is, and then the police come knocking on your door and dig deep down into your back garden, 8 inches deep, or 8 feet deep, in your back garden. And I don't know how, what surprises me time and time again is the strength of Kathleen Arkinson to be able to continue and to be able to continue to try and find answers and try and find her sister's remains. And the hope that the family have now, I suppose, is, for any information that might be out there, as little or as small as one might think it may be, that could help in them finding Arlene's remains, in order for them to have a burial, a proper Christian burial, as the Arkinson family's wishes are, and that she might be placed in the same grave alongside her mother and alongside her father, who's now deceased.
Yeah, and as you said, the ruling that Robert Howard was responsible for her death came from an inquest. It's an interesting one because it hasn't come from a court of law. What's the legal standing of that finding in terms of the law? Because it's something that I'm not 100% clear on, to be absolutely honest. I mean, is it a presumption, or is that taken as a legal decision in the same way that a court decision one? I believe it may be slightly different.
It is slightly different as far as I understand, and I'm always with this case. I'm so cautious in terms of the legalities that surround it. But as far as I understand, it's the why. It's the what and the how, and not the why. Yeah. So we know the inquest can conclude who has done this, and where, I suppose, they have done it, or where the crime has happened, but they don't give us a jury hearing that happened in 2015, almost or 2005. This case goes on for so many years. It was 14 years going through the inquest proceedings. So in 2005, there was actually a court hearing of Robert Howard, and a jury found him not guilty of murdering Arlene Arkinson. But that jury was unaware that Robert Howard was in fact serving life imprisonment at the time for the murder of another 14-year-old girl in Deptford in southeast London. There had been a blanket. So the jury wasn't aware of that crime and his imprisonment, at that time, and they were also unaware of his previous crimes. Now, Robert Howard was a man who had kind of a vast history of offences dating back as far back as the 1960s, all the way up to 2003, when he's finally arrested for the killing of the 14-year-old girl in Deptford. It baffles me, I suppose, how he was able to kind of get away with it for so long. And one thing that frightens me, and kind of dawned on me halfway through while we were making this, or halfway through researching into Robert Howard, was that in fact we don't really know how many victims Robert Howard affected or had and we probably will never know how many victims fell before Robert Howard.
Yeah, and it's the real tragedy of this case, as you say, is we did subsequently get that ruling at inquest, as you say, that the coroner ruled that Robert Howard was responsible for Arlene's death, but we're still using phrases like her body is probably buried in Castlederga, and the bottom line is we still do not have a body. The family, Kathleen in particular, still do not have somewhere where they can focus their grief. And Arlene's father, and you know, he was a very passionate and upset man, obviously, over the course of all this, that he died not knowing, and that's always one of the going to be one of the terrible things about this particular case.
I think the hardest thing, and throughout the series, so this episode is part of a 4-part series that airs every Wednesday night, and this is the 3rd series of this programme. And throughout the making of these programmes, we work directly with the victims' families, or close, where the families aren't available. There's close friends. And it's always with the family's consent as well, which is important to say. But what I do notice is that, families are left behind when their loved one gets murdered, and they're left behind to navigate, their grief, and also the legal system, also trying to understand, I suppose, the shock and the trauma of a sudden violent death, which leaves a lasting effect on the family members, and oftentimes we find that their grief is so prolonged, and like at the end of the day, Arlene Arkinson was a 15-year-old girl, and she was on her way to a disco. She was hoping that she would be able to go back to school at the end of summer. She was interested in art, and she was deciding, I suppose, and planning in her head, what her future might hold, or what might be in store for her. And she didn't come home that night. And I know there's countless parents or countless people out there who, every time their children go out the door to the school disco, and if they don't get that text, to say that they're on their way home, or if they don't, hear the key in the lock at a certain time, their anxiety is heightened. But that anxiety for the Arkinson family has prolonged for close to 30 years. It'll be 30 years next year that Arlene still hasn't walked through that door. And I suppose now they have kind of, they know that it's remains that they're looking for, that it no longer is, Arlene is no longer going to walk through that door. But if there was anybody at all who has any little bit of information that, whatever their role might have been, or, they might not have had a big role at all, but it could be something that might help. It could be something, in the back of somebody's memory from that time that felt a bit odd for them, or felt a bit wrong, that could indicate in any way where Arlene might be.
Sorcha, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us this morning. That programme on 9:30 tomorrow night on TG Cahir. It's looking at the murder of Arlene Arkinson in 1984 from Castlederg. Had been going to a disco in Bundoran, 15 years of age, and as of now her body still hasn't been found. Sorcha, go to Mahagat. That's Sorcha there, and it was a terrible story. And again, it's one of those stories that I first uttered the name Arlene Arkinson in terms of a story about a missing person who was last seen on Friday. And it's one of those stories that, obviously it has been covered so much, and the name Robert Howard was a name that was in the ether right from the start. From the mid-1990s, we were aware of the name Robert Howard. He was subsequently, as Sorcha pointed out, he was found not guilty in a court of law, and then the coroner's inquest has ruled that the belief of the coroner is that Robert Howard was responsible for her death, and hopefully at some point we'll get closure for the family. It's time for a short break. Back after these.
The one and only Tom Jones is back, and we're going to be there. Join us as Highland Radio hit the road to see the timeless legend as he headlines Belsonic 2023, Friday 16th of June. Your trip includes luxury transfers, bed and breakfast in the 4-star Clayton Hotel Belfast, and your standing ticket to the outdoor event. Contact us today on 074 9125,000 to see Tom Jones at Ormo Park, Belfast, Friday 16th of June.
Charge into summer with TUI. Secure your holiday today with savings for families and adults flying from Dublin, Cork and Shannon. Holiday sorted. TUI. Live happy.
For confirmation and first communion, there's a great selection of suits, casual wear and footwear at Watson Menswear in Letterkenny. Top brands include 1880 Club, Diesel and Tommy Bow Footwear, all at great prices. Stand out for the big day at Watson Menswear. Open 7 days a week on Main Street, Letterkenny and at watsonmenswear.com.
Attention all pet lovers and owners. Gary's Pet World Letterkenny is open 7 days per week, offering the very best value on all pet foods, accessories, grooming and care products. Call in and let our staff help you spoil your pet today. You will be amazed by the range of product for all pets, with exceptional value on all leading brands. Alternatively, you can browse and buy online at petworld.ie and we will deliver to your home.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Fly daily to London Heathrow with Aer Lingus and connect to 80 plus destinations worldwide, including Boston and New York. Ireland West Airport. Don't just take off, take it easy.
Well, we've had a cloudy and damp morning so far, outbreaks of rain and drizzle. It'll brighten up though as the afternoon goes on, with sunny spells and showers developing. A blustery start with moderate to fresh and gusty south to southwest winds, easing later. Mild though. Temperatures will hit 12 to 15 degrees Celsius this afternoon, which is good. So we'll have a few showers, but we'll get some sunshine and the temperatures will hit around 12. Hey, that's good. We can live with that. Now, you will be aware that Hamza Yousaf has been elected as the new leader of the Scottish National Party. He will go on to become Scotland's youngest First Minister. He will also be the first Muslim and member of an ethnic minority to be First Minister of Scotland. And I'm delighted to say I am now joined on Zoom by Niall Slater, who is a former Director of Learning and Teaching at the Open University. Niall, good morning to you.
Good morning.
You have obviously been keeping a close eye on what's been happening since the resignation of Nicola Sturgeon and the election yesterday of Hamza Yousaf. Is it today he officially becomes First Minister?
He's already officially the leader of the SNP, and I've forgotten whether it's today or it's very imminent anyway.
Yeah, I mean, he will be ratified once they sit in Holyrood. It'll be a formality. He will be ratified once Holyrood sits. You've obviously been keeping a close eye on what's been happening, and I'm sure you've been monitoring the election quite closely. This wasn't really a surprise. I mean, he was pretty much in the driver's seat, it was believed by many right from the off.
Well, it could have been Kate Forbes, and in fact, the result was very close. It was a bit like the Brexit vote in the UK. It was 48% for Kate Forbes and 52% for Hamza Yousaf. So that was actually very close, and it could have easily gone to her in the end.
In terms of Nicola Sturgeon, though, she had developed quite a reputation and quite a presence over the years. She's going to be a very hard act to follow.
Oh, absolutely. And Hamza Yousaf is young. He's 37 and relatively inexperienced, I suppose, in life. But he has been in the government for quite a long time. He's had a number of different jobs, Justice Secretary, Health Secretary. So he's got a fair bit of experience. But there's no doubt that Sturgeon is going to be an extremely hard act to follow, yes.
As you say, he has been health minister now. Healthcare, as is the case in many places, here included, healthcare not in the best state. Health minister, sometimes there was a former health minister here once described that position as the Angola of Irish politics, and I'm sure it's not all that much different in Holyrood.
Yes, I think that's right, especially with problems of not enough staff, as you've got in Ireland. The wages, salaries are not high enough, perhaps, to attract a lot of people. We've got immigration issues controlled by the UK government, so we can't actually get enough people in sometimes. And the budgets are not high enough, arguably, and the health of the population is not great in Scotland with an ageing population as well. So we do need a lot of work on the health sector. One of the problems for Scotland is that ultimately our budgets are really controlled by the UK government, and we don't have the ability to raise our own government loans. So even if we wanted to improve the health a lot, we're kind of at the mercy of what is doled out to us by Westminster.
Nicola Sturgeon had the reputation of being someone that was listened to. And when she went to Westminster with an air of authority. She went to Westminster with an air of equality. And she went to Westminster and sat down and looked successive British Prime Ministers in the eye and said, I have a message for you and I'm going to deliver it to you, and I'm going to deliver it to you as an equal. And she very much had that sense of authority in her dealings with PMs and others. Is Humza Yousaf going to have any difficulty getting that same sense of authority, getting that same sense of presence?
I think he will initially, because despite having been in government for quite a few years now, he's still a bit of an unknown quantity. First Minister's question time, which happens every week in Scottish Parliament, is a pretty ruthless business, and I don't know how he's going to stand up to that exactly, to the questioning that he's going to get from the Conservative members in particular. So especially because the record of health hasn't been perhaps as great as it might have been, he's going to be hammered every week on the what he's done in the past. So whether he'll be able to stand up to Rishi Sunak and some of the other people he's going to come into contact with, I don't know. He's apparently got a reputation as a nice guy, and I think that's why the Green Party is prepared to work with him, but also because of his more progressive views than the other candidates. So things like LGBT rights, the trans issue that we've had a lot of discussion of recently in Scotland. He's pretty much on the more liberal left-wing side of those debates. So he will come into a lot of conflict with the more conservative, more right-wing elements in the UK government. And how you'll stand up to that, I think, remains to be seen. Because being nice is a great thing, but it's not necessarily the quality that's going to get you the credibility to lead a country.
Finally, in terms of independence, Nicola Sturgeon had made it quite clear she was seeking another independence referendum and was not going to take no for an answer. Will Humza Yousaf pursue that with the same vigour and with the same sense of purpose that she did?
I think he'll have to, because he's in the leadership of the Scottish National Party. That's the raison d'etre of the SNP, is to go for independence. And if he's going to keep the membership on board, he's going to have to do something about that. But whether he'll manage to, I don't know. I mean, we're in this absurd position now in Scotland of having to ask the UK government if we can please have a referendum to find out if we want to be independent or not. And of course, the UK government is saying no. So about half the Scottish people seem to want independence and the other half are not convinced. And I don't know how we actually move forward on that and what Humza Yousaf's plans are to do that.
It's been a pleasure, Neil. Thank you very much indeed for speaking to us on the programme this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's Neil there speaking to us. Neil Slater, former Director of Learning and Teaching at the Open University in Scotland. Time in Highland Radio is actually approaching a minute to 10 o'clock. It's time's catching up on us. Almost time for news. So we are going to very shortly be saying good morning to Michaela Clark. So please do stand by for that. And we'll be with you for the second half of the show once we've had the news and the obituary notices.
Show the Monday blues the door. Kick them into touch. Banish them for good. With a wee treat at Kelly's Diner in Letterkenny. Maybe a coffee and scone, or an all-day breakfast, or a burger and chip. With American-style booth seating, fast and friendly service, a menu packed with tasty choices at great value, and loads of parking, it's a great stop-off any day of the week. Take back your Mondays at Kelly's Diner, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
Do you know what I love about Letterkenny Shopping Centre? I love it because everything I need is under one roof. There's fashion shopping for women and men, health foods and cosmetics, Tesco's and Pennies, free parking and late night shopping Thursday and Friday. I love it because Letterkenny Shopping Centre has it all, including homeware, jewellery, hair and beauty and Revolution Laundry and their free car park. Letterkenny Shopping Centre. So much choice and open 7 days.
Hi, Paddy here at Shane Conley Cars in Donegal Town. Are you looking to upgrade your car? With Shane Conley Cars, you'll find makes and models for every budget. Great finance options, and we also accept trade-ins. Check out ShaneConleyCars.com or call in to us at Shane Conley Cars from Lonagher Road, Donegal Town.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, I'm Michaela Clark with the news at 10 o'clock. The government will bring forward a confidence motion in itself tomorrow. It's in response to a Labour Party motion of no confidence in the coalition, which TDs will vote on in the Dáil tomorrow morning. It comes ahead of a scheduled ending of the eviction ban this Saturday. Speaking on his way into Cabinet this morning, Finance Minister Michael McGrath said collapsing the government now would be counterproductive.
Were the Labour Party motion to be passed by Dáil Éireann, we would have a general election which would take place in a month's time or so, and then that would be followed by a further period of weeks to months whereby the process of putting together a new government would take place, and that would come at a time when we need action in relation to housing, and that is what the government is focused on.
Well, Donegal County Councillor Jerry McMonigal fears the ending of the eviction ban, coupled with the lack of social houses and high rents, will lead to more people becoming homeless in Donegal. He was speaking after the draft Homeless Action Plan for the North West was presented to councillors yesterday. The plan sets out 4 strategic aims to tackle homelessness in the region. Councillor McMonigal says the plan has potential but needs to be adequately resourced.
I think the right policies are there. It's about providing support and pathways back from homelessness to being back to having a roof over your head. But what's needed is for that to be resourced. Our housing department within council are already overburdened with the amount of housing issues that we're dealing with, not least of all the Micah situation.
Letterkenny has been recommended as one of 5 regional centres in the country for development. At least 60,000 new homes could be built on land already owned by the state across the country. The finding is contained in a new report from the Land Development Agency set to be published today. It's identified land in Dublin, Cork, Limerick, Galway and Waterford, which could provide for around 60,000 new affordable homes. 5 regional centres in total are also recommended for development in Sligo, Letterkenny, Dundalk, Drogheda and Athlone. However, the LDA says there are still obstacles to unlocking state land for housing. The full hearing of Enoch Burke's dispute with his former employer, Wilson's Hospital School in County Westmeath, begins in court today. The teacher refused to refer to a transgender student by a new name and pronouns last year and claims he was suspended and ultimately dismissed from the Church of Ireland school for this reason. The school denies that and claims it was because of his behaviour, which they find amounted to gross misconduct. Mr Burke is expected to call 3 senior Church of Ireland clerics to give evidence in relation to his argument that transgenderism goes against his religious beliefs. Courts correspondent Frank Greaney says it's very hard to predict an outcome.
But it has been set down for 4 days, which is quite a long time for a case like this. But it is complicated, it is complex. What's interesting about this is, I feel like an Enoch Burke correspondent these past few months. There have been so many cases in relation to this, but this is the main event because Enoch Burke chose to run his case a little bit differently than you would normally see, in the sense that he went after the injunctions first.
Funding has been confirmed for the HSE to carry out a feasibility study of the site proposed for the Lifford Community Nursing Unit. The site is part of a council-owned plot of land on the outskirts of Lifford, which will also see social housing and business units developed there. Councillor Jerry Crawford says this is very significant.
It will allow for a full capital submission to be submitted, and in the HSE's own words, this is very positive news. I agree with that. Lifford Community Hospital has been on the agenda for very many years now. Very, very often in a negative light. Very strongly supported and corner fought by the Friends of Lifford Hospital. I myself have raised it on numerous occasions as HSE. It's something we just won't let go of, and this seems to be a very positive step.
The Donegal Donkey Sanctuary has launched a fundraising campaign as it is running dangerously low on supply. 98 donkeys are currently being cared for at the facility, with an additional 37 waiting to be housed there. Manager of the Donegal Donkey Sanctuary, Danny Curran, says they have been facing additional pressures over the past number of years.
Since the pandemic, we've seen an increase in the number of donkeys coming to us. You know, you've got the pandemic and then the cost of living crisis. We take in a lot of donkeys now from, house repossessions and, marriage breakups and people immigrating. And then we always have the cruelty cases going on as well.
Weather now cloudy and wet this morning with outbreaks of rain. Highest temperatures today of 13 or 14 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with an update again at 11 o'clock. Until then, good morning. The obituary notices for this Tuesday morning, March the 28th. The death has taken place of Patrick J. Doherty, Dunleary, County Dublin, and formerly of Chur, Muff, County Donegal, reposing at Carnegie's Funeral Home, Monkstown, County Dublin, today from 2 o'clock until 4 o'clock. Funeral Mass tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock in St John's Church, Mount Town, Dunleary, followed by burial in Sacred Heart Churchyard, Muff, County Donegal at around 4 o'clock. The death has taken place of Eamon Ferry, Kavanagh Upper, Letterkenny, remains reposing at his home. Funeral Mass tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock in St Catherine's Church, Auchterlin, with burial afterwards in Rathmullen Cemetery. Family time please from 10 o'clock tonight and before the funeral tomorrow. The death has taken place of Philomena Morrison, 22, Colnick Hill, Ramelton, remains reposing at her home. Funeral Mass tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock in St Joseph's Church, Rathmullen. Burial afterwards in Rathmullen Cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed on MCN Media. Family time from 10 o'clock tonight and before the funeral tomorrow. The death has occurred in London, England, of Joe Long, formerly Mean Carriga, Ballybuffet. Funeral will take place in London, England tomorrow. A memorial mass will be celebrated in the Church of Mary Immaculate Stranorlar tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. The mass will be streamed live via the parish webcam. The death has taken place of Hugh Hoddy Fisher, Mullavia, Portnew, remains reposing at his late residence. Funeral from there at 10:15 this morning to St Connell's Church, Kilclooney, for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Hugh's funeral mass can be viewed live on Chauvelin's Funeral Home Facebook page. The death has taken place of Michael Joseph Strain, 223 Ross Sully, Old Town, Letterkenny. Funeral from the Eternal Light Chapel of Rest, Mountain Top, Letterkenny, this morning at 10:30 for Requiem Mass in St Junan's Cathedral at 11 o'clock, followed by interment in Cornwall Cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed on churchservices.tv. The death has occurred of Molly Byrne, Nate Gallen, Raria, New Mills, and formerly of Mina Ray, Kelly Gordon, remains reposing at her late residence. Funeral this afternoon at 1 o'clock in St Junan's Cathedral, Letterkenny, with burial afterwards in the family plot in Cornwall Cemetery. Family flowers only. Molly's funeral mass can be viewed live at churchservices.tv. The death has taken place of Mary Ellen Worski, Worski Shop, The Mall, Ramelton, reposing at the family home, Milford Road, Ramelton. Family time before the funeral this morning. Funeral Mass this morning at 11 o'clock in St Mary's Church, Ramelton, followed by interment in the adjoining cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed live on churchservices.tv. And the death has taken place of Margaret McGonigal, née Doherty, O'Gara Villas, Moville. Her remains are reposing at her late residence. Margaret's funeral mass will take place this morning at 11 o'clock in St Pius X Church, Moville, followed by burial in Ballybrack Cemetery. Funeral mass can be viewed live on the parish webcam. Family flowers only. Donations in lieu of desired to the St Vincent de Paul, Moville, care of any family member. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
The HPV vaccine protects you from the HPV virus,
which can cause cancers, including cervical cancer.
And the more young people who get the HPV vaccine,
the more will be protected from HPV-related cancers.
If you didn't get the HPV vaccine when it was offered to you at school,
You could be eligible to get it now, for free, as part of the Laura Brennan Catch-Up programme.
So go to hpv.ie to find out more.
From the HSE.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
This is the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. It's Donal Kavanagh with you on till 12 noon today. And if you're wondering what Donal is doing presenting the show this morning, I can tell you the reason Donal is doing presenting the show this morning and the reason Donna Marie is producing is that Caroline and Greg are both en route to Brussels. And the show is coming from Brussels tomorrow, which is going to be a very interesting programme indeed. They'll be broadcasting from the European Parliament. Greg will be speaking to MEPs, people from Donegal who are working and living in Brussels, students from the transition year in Carndonagh Community School who are over in Brussels at the moment will also be joining Greg on the programme and giving him their impression of the European Parliament and all that operates around the area in Brussels as well. So a very interesting show indeed. MEPs as guests, people from Donegal working in Brussels as guests, and that's all happening on the 9 till noon show tomorrow. So Greg will be broadcasting from there, and so I'm doing the show today to allow he and Caroline get over there and get ready for tomorrow. A couple of comments before we go to a break. A caller asks, is it amazing or is it providence that now the Prime Ministers of ERA, the UK and Scotland come from the same or similar ethnic origin? That will be the case when Humza Yousaf is sworn in Scotland. That's from Mary. What I would say to that is they are all of very different ethnic origin. That's a little bit like, someone in another part of the world saying, sure, Ireland, England, what's the difference? And, it's one of those things where there are so many different ethnicities around the world. There are so many traditions. There are so many religions. And I'm always wary of... Now, my understanding would be that Humza Yousaf and Rishi Sunak would be from slightly different traditions, and Leo Varadkar, his family would be from a very different tradition again. Now, I'm sure if you ask Leo Varadkar where he's from, he's going to tell you he's from Dublin. It's always... I think what it is that we are seeing a multicultural society develop, and there's an argument that says we're all the better for it, that we have lots of perspectives, we've lots of traditions, and we're getting a situation where we're developing far more understanding of the world, far more understanding of ourselves, and I think the more we understand the world, the more we understand ourselves. So maybe it's a very good thing that that's happening. Now, caller says, 2 headlines in the journal.ie. The first, as you mentioned, a family of 8 is physically thrown out onto the street by a sinister group. The second is an ex-Fianna Fáil politician gets a write-down of €4.4 billion on his debts. There can't be a more glaring example of the horrendous inequalities in our country, so says a caller. Arlene Arkinson and Mary Boyle, 2 terrible tragedies that someone somewhere could help to soothe the awful trauma being suffered by both families. May they rest in peace. All one can say to that is amen. And another caller says, best wishes to Danny and the Donkey Sanctuary. They are fabulous, caring animal saviours. Another says, someone says, no, sorry, I'm not doing that. Sorry, I'm not doing that. And another caller says, just wondering if you know anyone in the locality with the cure for a sprained ankle. There was a man in Sligo, but he passed away, and that's from a caller. I'll be honest, I have had a sprained ankle, and I have found the cure is raise it up and rest it. If there is someone that has a cure for a sprained ankle, we would love to hear from you. Okay, it's 30 minutes past 10, time for the bingo numbers. So if you play NCBI Highland Radio Bingo, please grab your books, grab your pencils, and in just a moment, we will hand you over to Cass.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Tuesday the 28th of March. You're playing on the brown sheet. The reference number is S2. It's game number 13. The numbers are 6, 27, 54, 83, 40, 79, 39, 33, 11, and finally 18. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Could it get any better as a senior citizen? No sitting in traffic trying to get to work, heading off on midweek breaks, out for a bite to eat whenever it suits. And now that bite to eat costs even less at Kelly's Diner in Letterkenny, with 15% off after 3 every weekday when you spend €15. Meet up for a chat and a bite to eat Monday to Friday, with an extra 15% off the menu for all senior citizens at Kelly's Diner, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
Brilliant news! The Whistling Donkeys are joining the Marty Party this Friday night in the Conwy Hotel in Letterkenny for a night you won't want to miss. Donegal's finest, Donor, Eurovision winners Paul Harrington and Charlie McGettigan, Realtor dancers, TikTok sensation Koija, David James, Shauna McStravick, comedian Bernard O'Shea and many more. Get your tickets now at www.conwyhotel.com or call 074 9124 Show starts at 8 o'clock.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
And the time on Highland Radio is 10:15.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com. The Community Garda information slot is brought to you by Sheridan Security Systems, protecting what you value most. Call today and get your zero-wire alarm system from €299. Sheridan Security, 91-26025.
This is the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. It's a Tuesday morning. It's just gone 10:15, which means it is time for our Community Garda information slot. And delighted to say we're joined this morning by Garda Sergeant Ewan Walsh. Ewan, good morning.
Donal, how are you?
Very well indeed. Ewan, can you just pull that microphone down a little bit closer to your... just take it a bit closer to it there. You're sounding... Oh, that's an awful lot better. That's grand. Ewan, a couple of things to get through this morning, so we'll go straight into it. Starting off, fairly recently, actually, just this week, a burglary in Muff.
Yes, Donal, Gardaí in Muncrana are investigating a burglary which occurred in the Kilderry Lane area of Muff on Saturday night, Sunday morning past, so it would have been Sunday morning, the 26th of March, at approximately 4:30 a.m. Entry to a private dwelling was gained through a downstairs window, and a safe containing a substantial amount of money was stolen from within the house. So we're appealing for anybody who may have witnessed any suspicious activity in the area around that time, that's Sunday morning 26, Sunday past at 4:30 a.m, to contact the Gardaí of Buncrana 07493 20540. And again, anybody travelling in the area around that time who has dash cam footage, we'd ask them to make it available to the Gardaí in Buncrana. And again, the Garda confidential line can also be reached at 1800 666 111.
A number of assaults that you're seeking information about. The first of them on Main Street in Milford.
Yes, this is an assault which occurred, Donal, on Main Street, Milford, last Wednesday, the 22nd, at approximately 11:45 p.m. outside the licensed premises. We believe the man has been assaulted at location where he received substantial injuries to his head and hand, fortunately none of which are believed to be life-threatening. And again, if anybody witnessed the incident or has any information in relation to assault, to contact the Gardaí at Milford 07491536060.
Another incident which happened in the Rafo area.
Yes, this assault which happened on Monday the 27th at 8:55 a.m, so early in the morning. A dispute took place between two males in the area of the main street. One of the males was physically assaulted. Again, injuries were sustained, but fortunately not life-threatening in nature. So again, any witnesses or anybody who've heard anything or seen anything to come forward to contact the Gardaí at Letterkenny 07491 67100, or again, anybody in the area who has dashcam that was passing the area to make it available to us.
Gardaí in Buncrana are investigating the theft of a ride-on mower, and that took place in Burnfoot last week.
Yes, between Monday the 13th and Thursday the 16th, so the week before last, at Elabeg, Burnfoot, a ride-on mower was stolen. The mower is a Kubota GR1600, a ride-on mower, bright orange in colour, so fairly distinctive, with a serial number of 363626, so bright and orange in colour, has a flat tyre on the front right-hand side and damage to the handle on the rear tipper. There was a bar and the tipper twisted, so again, fairly distinctive. So anybody comes across a similar type mower for sale or even offered for sale, please alert the Gardaí in Buncrana immediately. And again, any other relevant information in relation to the theft, to contact the Gardaí at Buncrana, 07493 20540, or again, the confidential line is available, 1800 666 111.
Staying in Inishowen, and we have an incident of criminal damage in Buncrana itself.
Yes, this occurred last Sunday the 13th at approximately 10 p.m. in the Ludden area of Buncrana. A white mini car was parked at the location near the filling station in Ludden, and we were aware that two males who were on foot, dressed in dark tracksuits with their hoods up, made their way over to the car and caused damage to the four tyres. So again, two males on foot, dark clothing with hoods up. So we're appealing to anybody who travelled along that busy stretch of road at Ludden around the time and may have dash cam to make the footage available to Gardaí at Buncrana, or again, anybody saw two males in the area acted suspiciously, again, to contact the Gardaí at Buncrana, 07493 20540.
An incident of criminal damage in the Lifford area.
Yes, this is a substantial damage was caused to a house in the Beechwood Grove area of Lifford on Tuesday, 21st of March. The front window of the house was damaged and substantial damage to the front door. Unfortunately, entry was not gained to the house, although we believe some attempt was made to get into the house. So again, we're appealing to residents in the area or anybody who saw anything suspicious to contact the Gardaí at Letterkenny, 07491 67100. So that's the criminal damage incident at Beechwood Grove, Lifford, last Tuesday, the 21st of March, 1:10 p.m.
And an incident in the Old Town area of Letterkenny Sunday just past.
Yes, this is a substantial damage to a house also in the Old Town area of Letterkenny Sunday past Saturday night, Sunday morning, so approximately 5 a.m. to 5:10 a.m. The window of the front porch of a house was smashed by what we believe is a young male who at the time was wearing dark clothing, white trainers, and again with the hood up. So the youth left on foot in direction of the Letterkenny town towards the Old Town Bridge. So if anybody was travelling that area at the time, or again has dash cam, to make it available to the Gardaí. So that's a young male wearing dark clothing, white trainers, and a hood up Sunday morning past at approximately 5:10 a.m.
And obviously anyone with information about any of those incidents we've just outlined there, as well as contacting the local Garda station, if they wish, they can also contact the Garda confidential line, 1800 666 111. Now, people would have heard on radio and seen on TV and in their papers the latest Garda recruitment competition opened late last week, and the adverts are appearing regularly here and elsewhere. It's a very big recruitment campaign.
It is. Have you seen the ads? Have you?
I have indeed. Yeah.
Are you impressed? Or?
I'm quite impressed actually. Yeah. They are good ads. I mean, it's an interesting message. I mean, the message being it's a job worth doing. You know, it's sort of focusing on that sort of the role of the Gardaí within the community, and it's going beyond just a detecting and solving crime. It's going into that community role that
you
really
weren't tempted, no?
Heart. I'd put it this way. I did the exam at the same time as my brother in 1981. Oh my God. I was invited for interview, but I also got another college place, so I took that. My brother was invited for interview, and I think he's got 32 years service now.
He's still in the job,
Oh,
yeah?
he's still in the job, yeah.
Oh, very good, very good. So yes, as you said, the recruitment campaign opened last week. And again, anybody interested in applying for an Garda Síochána can do so at www.publicjobs.ie, and you must apply before 3 p.m. on 14th of April 2023. This is a hope to recruit 1,000 new Gardaí before the end of the year. So the competition, Donal, has been run by the Public Appointment Service on behalf of Garda Síochána. And as you said, the recruitment campaign is along the tagline, it's a job worth doing, and gone live across TV, national and local print and outdoors since the 24th of March. So the campaign is based on insights from Gardaí and features real-life examples from individual Gardaí throughout the country. Again, it aims to show the nature of the job, working 4 a.m, making arrests, physical activity, as well as the significant personal and social benefits as engaging with communities, arresting criminals, helping victims of crime, and of course the camaraderie that we have in our organisation. So on the publicjobs.ie website there is a candidate information booklet which deals with the selection process and what's involved to become a member of Garda Síochána. And also a recruitment open day will take place in the Garda Boat Club, Island Bridge, Dublin on Saturday week, the 8th of April from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And again, a variety of sections of our organisation will be showcased on the day, and information assistance with the recruitment process will be provided. again, it might be a bit far for people from Donegal to travel. So we'll be having here information stands and career-related events at shopping centres and other areas over the coming weeks. And again, anybody who's wants to join or thinking of joining, to contact the local Garda station, speak to local Garda again. Call in, maybe how I know people who have joined previously have also been provided with a look around the station to see what's involved and speak to some of the specialised units and other parties in the station.
Yeah, it's certainly one that you would advise anyone, to have a think about, because it is, as they say, a worthwhile profession, and the role of the Garda a hugely important.
Yes, and there is a facility if you're currently studying for a degree or whatever in your final year and you're considering joining. There is a facility to apply. And hold off on your acceptance until you finish your degree course.
Yep. All that information, publicjobs.ie, and as Ewan said there, call into your local Garda station. Sometimes nothing beats just having a chat with someone and just sitting down and say, listen, what's the story here?
Exactly.
And people will be only too delighted to facilitate that. Ewan, pleasure as always. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks for having me
this morning.
Thank you.
Pleasure. And we will see you again. That's Sergeant Ewan Walsh there. That was our Community Garda slot on Highland Radio. We're going to take a short break. Back after these.
If you have magic moments or great memories sitting on your phone or in the cloud, have them printed at McGee's Chemist Letterkenny. Get larger 7x5 prints for the same as 6x4s. 35mm and film from disposable cameras also printed and digitalised. Use the in-store kiosk. Download the McGee's Photo Prints app or visit mcgees.ie. Photos printed instantly, within an hour, or in by 10, ready by 5. Hold your memories in your hand with McGee's Chemist Letterkenny. Transform your home with a visit to McGinley's Furniture Letterkenny, located at the Portlink Business Park just off the Port Road. You'll find a huge selection of top quality suites, beds and mattresses, also slide robes and custom-made dining and occasional furniture, with prices to suit every budget. See the great choice for yourself at our showroom, McGinley's Furniture, Portlink Business Park, Port Road, Letterkenny. Click mcginleysfurniture.com.
Sleek, smooth, safe, modern. Oh, you want to hear more? Do you want to drive the most modern car in Donegal? There's a reason why it's our county's favourite car. The brand new diesel Kia Sportage, the multi-award-winning SUV, is available at iMotors now. Our team will take care of all of your needs. Visit imotors.ie or call in to us today, because how you feel when you drive is important to us.
At Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms, we are now operating out of one new state-of-the-art showroom in Donegal Town. And we invite you to visit our new 5,000 square foot Donegal Town showroom to discover the latest eye-catching designs. Remember, at Cherrymore, you're dealing directly with the manufacturer, which means high-quality kitchens at factory prices. Start planning your dream kitchen or bedroom by calling Cherrymore on 074 9725 822. Cherrymore, 25 years delivering value, quality and service all over Ireland.
PDO Thread Lifts, the ultimate non-surgical lift for the skin, improving facial contours, lifting and tightening jowls, the neck, cheeks and eyebrows, are available at Genesis Aesthetics and Skincare Clinic Udor. For help choosing the right aesthetic treatment for you, contact Mary Ferry, your aesthetic practitioner. Also offering fat-dissolving treatments, dermal fillers and laser treatments for all skin conditions. Hair and makeup packages also available. Genesis Aesthetics and Skincare Clinic Udor, 07495 325 75.
This is the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. Let's look at some of your comments, and one or two comments that have been held over from yesterday. Cyclists cycle side by side so they can chat to each other, but surely with today's technology they can have earpieces and mics to chat and stay in single file. That's the perspective of one of our callers. We spoke to a representative of the Cycle Safety Organisation yesterday. Caller says the eviction ban was illegal. Terrible law. Every landlord will sell and only the mega landlords. We actually did that one. Another story. I would like to hear the landlord's side of the story about that eviction. What if the tenants were not paying the rent and therefore the landlord could not afford to pay back their mortgage and the bank threatened repossession? There are some nightmare tenants out there as well who hide behind the rights of their children to take advantage of the law. And that is absolutely the case. That is correct. But what I would say to that is there are procedures in place. And from what we know about what happened in Bundoran, there was no procedure followed whatsoever. So in the case of bad tenants, in the case of money owing, there are procedures there. And as far as we can see from what we know of the incident in Bundoran, I am not aware of any procedure whatsoever being followed. Now, we're going to talk about the eviction ban and homelessness because, as I said earlier on, Donegal County Council yesterday adopted its plan for dealing with homelessness in the county, and the council also passed a motion that was moved by Councillor Albert Doherty, basically calling on the government to retain the eviction ban. Now, we're joined online by two councillors, Councillor Jerry McMonigal, who spoke on the homelessness issue, and Councillor Albert Doherty, who was the councillor that moved that motion calling on the government to retain the eviction ban. Councillor Albert Doherty, I'll go to you first. A very good morning to you.
Good morning, Donal. Good morning, listeners.
And Councillor Jeremy McMonigal, good morning to you as well.
Good morning, Donal. Good morning to all the listeners as well.
Albert, I'll go to yourself first. As I said, you moved the motion and Council adopted it that you're calling on the government to retain the eviction ban. Realistically speaking, the government, having reached the decision it reached last week and got through the Dáil with it, realistically the government is not going to change its mind based on what's coming to it from Donegal County Council.
That may be so. There are two national matters that government will have to deal with this week, one from the Labour Party and one from Sinn Féin. As you say, there may be no change. But last night and yesterday evening, I appealed to my colleagues and referred to my colleagues in Donegal County Council to whole issue over the eviction ban. It was there and it was designed to protect tenants who met their obligations, tenants who paid their rent, tenants who adhered to agreements, this no-fault evictions. And we are in a particular county affected with the defective block issue. We have the impact of 88 eviction notices coming into force in Donegal on Saturday next. And my appeal was to put this to the front desk of Minister O'Brien and to say, yes, up here it's different. We're facing the defective block issue. We're facing a lack of supply. We're hosting hundreds and hundreds of visitors from Ukraine and those involved with IPAS, and we have not had the supply. And the government themselves were saying that they still have to put in some features that will mitigate the worst impacts of the ban's removal. We have 3 days, they have 3 days, so it's not going to happen. And I think the eviction ban, it has to be retained.
Councillor Jerry McMonigal, you obviously supported your party colleague on that in Lifford yesterday. You also spoke at length on that homelessness policy. One of the points you've been raising over the past while at meetings is that of modular homes. You moved an emergency motion some months ago, late last year, calling on Dara O'Brien to consider modular homes as a stopgap measure. As Councillor Albert has pointed out, within a matter of days we will have people facing evictions, but still, even though we are in need of a short-term solution both to problems with evictions and problems with homelessness, not to mention problems with defective block homeowners, the reality is the government is showing no inclination to move toward modular homes and no alternatives with regards to a short-term solution.
That's correct, Donal. And I don't think any right-thinking person can understand the government's stance on lifting this eviction ban. And how it's going to help and assist those who are affected by MICA and whose homes are being demolished as we speak. We have known for quite a while now, and we're bringing in motions at Donegal County Council. Indeed, our housing spokesperson, Owen O'Brien, has been bringing in several motions to the Dáil in relation to how we could address the growing housing shortage. And this has fallen on deaf ears. The government's attempts to address the housing shortage has failed miserably, and all the initiatives that they have tried to introduce. And it's because they aren't putting the effort into it They aren't thinking about it. They're just coming up with ideas off the top of their heads, if you ask me, and trying to say, yes, look, we have the housing for all. We have the derelict housing grants, but there's no substance to it. It is not resourced. And for anybody to access any of these grants or any of these initiatives, it's taken an extraordinary length of time. And while this is happening, there's no new social houses being built, and the private sector has all but stopped in counties like Donegal. So we're in a perfect storm here, and we've seen yesterday with the report that was given by Eamon Brown in relation to the Homeless Action Plan going forward, the difficulties that we have. We currently have 2,700 people on the housing list in County Donegal. Half of those are being served by the private sector, and now a lot, up to 88 people are facing eviction notices as from this weekend, and we have nowhere to put these people. We have no emergency accommodation, and we have no social houses which are available to house these families. And we've seen what happened last night, the night before, in relation to Bundoran, where a family of 6 were put out onto the street in the middle of the night. And this is what's going to be happening in the short term, and this is what's going to be happening in the long term until we put together a proper housing policy for the people of Donegal.
One of the points being made by government is that we have what they're calling the tenant in situ plan, whereby local authorities will be given clearance in cases where someone is facing eviction and the house is going up for sale, that the council can buy the house with the tenant in situ, and that the council will continue to rent the house to the tenant. Has Donegal County Council received any formal notification of that scheme, and has Donegal County Council received any indication from government as to what level of resources and what level of money is going to be given to the council to allow it to implement that scheme? Because at the moment, from what we're hearing from Dublin, it seems to be very heavy on policy but very light on actual resources.
And this is the problem. The policies might be there, but they aren't being resourced. In relation to the tenants in situ, I've spoke to our Director of Housing and housing staff and asked them, is it the case that as from next Monday, if a tenant who is being evicted from the home and it's up for sale, are we in position, is Donegal County Council in a position to buy that home? And the response I got was not very positive. It was, look, there's a lot of questions that still have to be answered by the department. There's a lot of I's have to be dotted and T's have to be crossed. And that they were recently there on Friday past in a Zoom meeting with the department, and all of the directors of housing from across the state were there in every county, and they were far from happy at what they were being told. So there is still a lot of work to be done on that. And while some houses have been bought, it is still not clear, is it coming out of the major urban areas into the likes of Donegal, Mayo, Leitrim, Sligo, and we still have not got a pathway to going in and being able to buy these houses where the tenant in situ is being evicted.
Albert Doherty, going back to you, and as a councillor in Inishowen who's been working closely with many people affected by defective blocks, you know that there's been a huge gap between a policy being enacted in the Dáil and then that policy being actualised and resourced by the Department of Housing. We've seen legislation go through the Dáil, and a year later still nothing really happening at department level on the back of that legislation. Is it your fear that the tenant in situ scheme will go the same way, that the government will make a big announcement but the Department of Housing will allow it to become completely mired in bureaucracy?
It is my feeling that long finger approach may again result. The language used in my reply received yesterday was that in relation to tenant in situ, the local authorities are encouraged to purchase homes. That's not good enough. They must be instructed, know that these mitigation circumstances are in place, that they can instruct councils to buy. I mean, Minister Cleary advising that Dara O'Brien pleaded with her chief executives to act positively to increase the housing purchase throughout the different local authorities. I haven't seen in black and white the word instruction. That's what's required, not encouragement, Yes, everybody wants to resolve, but we need to have the proper legislation in place that enables our council to purchase houses, that begins to increase supply. And yesterday in the chamber in Lifford, there was excellent support all around, but we asked, where is our town regeneration officer and action, and why are we having so long to wait on the enhanced scheme in relation to defective block? Donegal, we're on the long finger, and we need an immediate response that allows supply and a resolution to this overdue enhanced scheme that's awaited in the county.
Well, the answer you were given, and Councillor McMonigal, a similar answer was given to questions at the Letterkenny Milford MD just some weeks ago, when the question was asked about the vacant homes officer and the town development officer. We're told the town development officer is in situ and is transitioning into the role, and the vacant homes officer final interviews are taking place this week, and it's hoped that position is going to be offered shortly. So we will hopefully, in the not too distant future, have a vacant homes officer and a town development officer in place, and both of those will be working closely, particularly in the area of dereliction. Now, dereliction on the agenda for a lot of yesterday's meeting in Lifford, dereliction also on the agenda at the various municipal district meetings as well. But I mean, in terms of taking derelict houses and bringing them back into use, the problem here is the same as we've already discussed. It's going to take some time for that to happen, and it's not going to be done particularly by next Monday, when this whole issue with the eviction ban is going to start kicking in.
That's absolutely true, and they will need to be properly resourced. They will need to be properly supported with legislation of what they can do. We will need a carrot and a big stick approach. We need an incentive for people to become involved in the town regeneration, and we need also encouragement, incentive and resources as well to allow for this dereliction story to be confronted. And we do want to put life back in our town centres, village centres, and there's so much to be done there, and the sooner we have a resourced support to commence this in the county, the better.
Jeremy McMonigal, can I put a point to you, because we've had a caller make a point, and it's been made on several occasions, both here and elsewhere as well, right across the country, nationally as well as locally. Someone saying, very often when we speak of landlords, we're speaking as though they were vulture funds, we're speaking as though they were big, evil, multinational corporations out to suck the money from communities. Caller saying, the reality is, in many cases, a landlord, particularly in an area like Donegal, a landlord is a local person that has a second home who is renting out that second home, and all the pressure being put on landlords at the moment, all the pressures from the eviction ban and everything else, is going to make many of those reconsider, sell their houses and get out of the game. And one of the problems is that the more pressure you put on landlords, the more they're likely to say, to hell with this, I'm out, and they'll just leave, and there'll be fewer properties available to rent on the private market.
I would hope not, Donal. In my experience, and I've rented a brief few houses in Letterkenny over the years I've been in it. I've always had a very good relationship with the landlords. They've always been quite good up front, trying to help and assist you in every way they could. And I would like to think that would continue. But unfortunately, there is the vulture-type funds who have multiple dwellings, and they are not as good a landlords as the local landlord, as you've described as. And we do see that there, and we would like to help and support those local people who have maybe bought a second home, put up a family home for rent, and it's providing fantastic accommodation for local people and for the students that come to Letterkenny and attend ATU, and that's to be very much welcomed. And as I say, in the norm, that in the main, that there is a good relationship and a good example. But there is the vulture funds, and they're coming more and more into this. And there is the multiple house owners who maybe have taken on more than they can chew at times, and sometimes it's the service they give slips. But for the ordinary, everyday, we understand that fully and fully support them. As I say, my experience has been quite a good one with them. But there is others who have multiple home ownership, and the vulture fund. It is not as a good experience as what would be for the landlord who has one or maybe two houses. And the other problem that we have here, Donal, trying to get out of this homelessness situation and housing shortage, is that the banks and the lending institutions are refusing to lend monies to people who maybe are looking to invest in building more new houses, and also in turning derelict homes into homes for use again by families and individuals. And banks need to sit up and take notice of this. They have a role and a part to play in this rebuilding as well. And they get enough from us and have got enough from us down through the years. And it wasn't the ordinary businessman and person in the street who bankrupt the banks. They need to be stepping up to the plate here, and they need making funds available for people to borrow to be able to utilise their derelict properties and bring them back into use, and for contractors to be able to buy new homes as well, or build new homes as well.
And finally, Councillor Albert Doherty, Donegal County Council, locally as well as government nationally, have a very big job of work to do now in the coming weeks and months to do what they can to alleviate and address the housing crisis. And as we always say, in this county, we have that added pressure of work being done on homes affected by defective blocks. And the perfect storm in Donegal, and that phrase used on a number of occasions at the meeting in Lifford last evening, the perfect storm is going to be that right at the time we have this huge crisis in terms of availability of rental properties, we also have many homeowners will be looking for alternative temporary accommodation while their homes are being demolished and rebuilt or being made good in other areas. So we have this situation where there is this added pressure on Donegal, and as both you and Councillor Jerry have said, that doesn't appear to be on Dara O'Brien's radar, and he doesn't appear to be reacting in the way that really, as a minister with responsibility for this, he should.
Yes, Donal, and the last item with Councillor McMonigal, the small landlord is the jewel in the crown. It's the person who is providing the much needed housing supply at the moment, and there needs to be appropriate incentives there, and if there's tax implications that can be lightened or reduced, then that's important. Also, the experience that I've had over last summer, for one individual to be released from the Letterkenny University Hospital, we couldn't locate one suitable property for that person that would enable him to leave hospital and have an appropriate roof over his head. In our own situation in Kavanagh, we faced an autumn there just past where because a landlord considered not extending his leasing, there was implications for 6 or 7 local families, and it caused tensions, it caused stress, it resulted in Christmas decorations not going up, it resulted in Santa not being able to receive letters, and that uncertainty over this inability or not wish to lease again, these are all implications. And as you mentioned now, with the housing supply, we don't seem to be on Dara O'Brien's radar, and that's why yesterday, when I took forward that motion on the eviction ban to be extended, that was Donegal saying until we have suitable number of supply of housing and housing facilities, this ban has to be extended. We gave our message yesterday. I'm not too hopeful that Minister Dara O'Brien has his ears open to the people of Donegal, and we may have to send a further message at another time in a different way. Sinead Donal.
Councillor Albert Doherty and Councillor Jerry McMonigal, thank you very much, both of you, for speaking to us this morning. There is no doubt in my mind we will be discussing this issue again in the not too distant future, and we will be discussing this issue frequently on the programme, no doubt at all. But for the moment, Jerry, Albert, thank you both very much indeed. That's Councillors Jerry McMonigal and Albert Doherty there. It's time for a short break. Back after these.
Tá go láiste na tríóide bailile clia spragan an lúnta le níos mó ná cericéid blian. Cuirtear réimse leathan chlár iarchéime fáil ag leibhéal bháisteachta, diploma agus tastais I go láiste na tríóide. Bíling ag át tróna oscailta fíorúil diarchéimethe de Mart an 28 lá Marta an na 5 clog go dtí na 7 clog. Buail le lucht acadúil atá chuas cánaigh sa dán, agus bí spraga le tuairt fin géad chéimeile de ganim. Chláric do chud spéise ag tcd.ie agus bí spragtha.
Not long till our trip to Ards and North Down.
I can't wait to dust off the golf clubs.
Or maybe I get some R&R in the spa.
We could book in some paddleboarding.
Or maybe kayaking this time. The kids would love that.
There's loads of great options for dinner and drinks.
The main question is, what do we do first?
Great moments to remember. Find great value breaks at visitardandnorthdown.com/offers.
There's nothing like a full Irish from Dunn Stores. Rashers, 2 packs for €4. Sausages, 8 for €1. Beautiful bread, toasted and topped with quality butter. Farm fresh eggs, just €1.40 for a half dozen. Dunn Stores has everything you need for the perfect full Irish. Plus, with our 5 off 25 grocery vouchers, you can save even more. Dunn Stores, always better value. Terms and conditions apply. Voucher can be used in next in-store grocery shop of €25 or more.
House to Home Bridgend, Donegal. Our modest front door opens onto 2 floors of Irish-made furniture, suites, beds, mattresses, dining and occasional furniture. Step into our showroom and see how we can transform your house into a home. House to Home furniture, flooring, slide ropes and interiors, Bridgend, Donegal.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. From March 26th, Aer Lingus will operate a daily service to London Heathrow, providing onward connections to 80+ destinations worldwide. Ireland West Airport. Don't just take off, take it easy.
Well, we've had a cloudy and damp start and some outbreaks of rain and drizzle still affecting the northwest. However, it'll brighten up in the afternoon. We'll have some sunny spells, some showers as well. After a blustery start with moderate to fresh and gusty south to southwest winds, that too will ease. It'll be mild this afternoon, we're told, with top temperatures of 12 to 15 degrees Celsius. So that permanent drizzle is going to go. The wind's going to ease. We're going to hit 15 degrees Celsius and we're going to have some sunny spells. Let's be optimistic. We'll be walking on the sunny side of the street before today is out. Now, I want to go to Anna Doherty, who is the CEO of Londonderry Chamber, and Anna joins us on Zoom. Anna, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Donal.
Anna, a very important initiative coming up in the Inishowen Gateway Hotel, a breakfast briefing on cross-border tax, still a huge issue in this region.
Yes, absolutely. So this is an event that we run in collaboration with the Letterkenny Chamber, obviously our friends across the border, and in association with CBPES, which is the cross-border partnership for employment services, which is a partnership which works across the border region, across the whole of Northern Ireland, plus Cavan, Donegal, Leitrim, Louth, Monaghan and Sligo in the south, and really is operating to help facilitate free movement of those who want to work on either side of the border.
And we've had many discussions recently, particularly after the pandemic, when there were glitches came up in the law, which meant that someone living in the Republic and working in Northern Ireland couldn't work from home in the Republic. And that proved quite an issue, and that proved quite a lengthy discussion with the Finance Minister. I think that one has been slightly resolved, but perhaps not fully resolved. And there are still some outstanding issues like that, which I'm sure will come up for discussion.
Absolutely, that will be covered certainly, Donal, and we have our tax expert Rose Tierney. She will be coming in to explain all of the issues and bring everybody up to date, because it's such a changing situation, and as you say, there've been lots of issues like that for workers like myself. Actually, interestingly, I live in Inishowen and work in Derry. And so, yes, that working from home issue is high on everybody's agenda.
I mean, we know there are literally thousands of people who do exactly that. I mean, I think your counterpart in Letterkenny is the exact opposite, actually, if I'm correct in the way I'm thinking. In terms of people registering for that, londonderrychamber.co.uk registration is advised on that. And in fact, as far as I understand it, this isn't a walk-in event. You do want people to register first.
We do, Donal, very much so. And it's open to both employees who are working cross-border and employers. So there'll be information for both. It's totally free. And as you say, it's a breakfast event at the Inishowen Gateway Hotel, hosted there. So it'll be from 8:30 in the morning till 10. And you can register on our website.
And it's Thursday the 18th of May. As it's a little bit of a distance away yet, but it's worth planning for, because, as we said, this is a major issue. It affects workers, but it also affects employers as well, and employers, particularly those with their workers' welfare in mind, which all employers obviously will have. Important for employers too, particularly those who may have a lot of cross-border workers, just to know exactly where they stand, because ultimately in many cases in PAYE it's the employers are the ones who are going to try and traverse this minefield and figure out exactly how much they should be charging everybody on behalf of the state.
Exactly, and as things are changing so much and the fallout it continues to happen after Brexit, and there are changes, keep coming down the line. And as I say, Rose Tierney is right on top of that, and she'll be able to advise employers and employees.
Excellent. Anna Doherty, CEO of Londonderry Chamber, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us this morning.
Thank you, Donal.
And as we say, you can register londonderrychamber.co.uk to register for that particular event. Now, I want to share with you a rather lengthy email that came into the show, but it's one that does bear some discussion. Caller says, Greg, I was listening to your show last week. I came across a section on a listener's complaint about two carers that called to her home to implement care. You read a lady's complaint about two particular carers not wanting to do their jobs and just wanting to get paid or not show up. You stated the person who wrote the complaint said she was afraid to complain about it and be threatened with her care package being withdrawn. She is entitled to complain without being threatened. This shouldn't be the case. They cannot do this. Can you readdress this on your show? The lady can complain to the HSE, haveyoursay.ie. The text you read resonated with me, as I have had a similar issue with two particular carers. I have a mother who I care for with dementia, bipolar, hard of hearing. We have a sit-in service as well as 3 visits per day for her personal care, such as shower, incontinence and any other needs. I had a few breaches in her care plan. My mother's care plan stated there needed to be 2 carers 3 times a day. Her care plan is broken in 45 minutes in the morning, 30 in the afternoon and 30 at night. She wasn't getting that. What should have been 45 minutes in the morning was turning into between 6 and 10 minutes and out the door again on most days. That's 6 to 10 minutes out of 45 to get her changed, into the shower, hair washed, dried and redressed. My mother, as I mentioned, has dementia, bipolar, hard of hearing. She was being rushed. At times only one of them was turning up and still implementing care in under 10 minutes, signing both carers' names on the designated care log. Her plan stated there's supposed to be 2 people present on each visit. Luckily we had CCTV outside the house, therefore I went back on CCTV to check out the timings of the care plan. I was able to prove the breaches were happening to the HSE using video footage. It was the same 2 people doing it all the time when I wasn't present. The person who contacted you needs to get this addressed about those 2 carers that were causing trouble for her. That person shouldn't be afraid to voice her complaint and concerns about these carers. If they have an attitude of just being there for the money and neglecting the client, they should not be in that line of work. Maybe the Home Health Office doesn't know this is happening. There are a couple of things the person can do. She needs to get a hold of her care plan and see how much time her loved one is allocated by the Home Help Office. She can phone the office in Lifford and ask to speak to the line manager or someone who is above them to voice that complaint. She's entitled to do so, particularly if she's receiving a service from them that she's not happy with. There is a complaints department in the HSE. You can write to haveyoursay.ie. You should get a very quick reply. That issue will then be investigated. If you're not then happy, you can contact Consumer Services Office at ch.cho1@hse.ie. The outcome of my situation was they contacted me by phone first and apologised for what was happening. Then they changed the staff, the brand new staff. They then sent me a detailed report of which my complaint was upheld. If you're not happy with those solutions, you can contact the Ombudsman, www.ombudsman.ie. And and thank you very much indeed to the listener who emailed this in. It's very comprehensive, and I would absolutely say to people, if you are getting care and you're not happy with the quality and level of that care, you absolutely have the right to complain, and you absolutely have the right to demand what you are being given, because what you're given in terms of care packages like that is the absolute basic. I've been in the situation where I've had involvement in organising care for loved ones, and I'm delighted to say that in all instances, in our experience, the care they got was first class and what was promised was given, and we had absolutely no complaints about it. And most people are in that situation. However, there may be cases where that's not the case, and in those instances it is absolutely important that you make your complaint known to the HSE.
If you don't like waiting, then the new Citroën C5 Aircross SUV is the car for you. That's because the C5 Aircross is available now. So you really won't have to wait at all. And ironically, with its advanced comfort technology, best-in-class boot space, amazing finance offers and 5-year warranty, it would definitely be worth waiting for. If you had to wait. Which you don't.
The new Citroen C5 Aircross SUV is in stock now at Highland Motors, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
Happy news from Aldi. We've topped the leaderboard at the National Parenting Product Awards with 22 wins, making us the most awarded retailer. There were golds for our organic Mamia baby food range, Mamia Ultra Dry Junior Plus nappies size 5 plus, and Mamia Premium Newborn Mini size 2 nappies voted the nation's best nappies by parents in Ireland. So, Mum and Dad, not using Mamia nappies yet? Whew, could be time for a change. Aldi, every day amazing.
Don't know if you know Alice and Pat. Late 40s, couple of kids, been together 17 years. Never married, of course, but that's not a problem. Until something happens, and suddenly words like unmarried, inheritance, and substantial tax bill enter the equation. You never need proper estate planning. Until you do. That's why the experienced team at McElhenney & Associates are here to help. Find us online or call 074 917 5989. McElhenney & Associates Solicitors, Stranraer.
Are you worried about trees on your property? Northwest Forestry Services Ballybuffet are fully insured and have over 40 years experience in dangerous tree removal, tree felling, surgery and stump grinding. For peace of mind, call Northwest Forest Services Ballybuffet for a no obligation quotation on 913233.
These days, we're all looking for healthy, tasty family meals and lots of variety. The good news is that our fishermen continue to bring us the best of the catch, like fresh Irish hake and haddock. There are so many ways to enjoy them. Try delicious Thai curry with hake or mouth-watering Cajun seasoned haddock. For lots of tasty recipes and different meal ideas, visit boardbeer.ie and look out for Irish hake and haddock next time you're shopping. Fresh ideas, great meals.
This is the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio, and at 11:11 we say good morning to Michaela Clark.
Thanks, Donal. Good morning. The government will bring forward a confidence motion in itself tomorrow. It's in response to a Labour Party motion of no confidence in the coalition, which TDs will vote on in the Dáil tomorrow morning. It comes ahead of the scheduled ending of the eviction ban this Saturday. A safe containing a substantial amount of money has been stolen from a house in Muff. At around 4:30 on Sunday morning last, entry is believed to have been gained to the property at Kildare Lane through a downstairs window. Gardaí are appealing to anyone who saw any suspicious activity in the area at the time to contact them at Buncrana Garda Station. 2 men have been injured in 2 separate attacks in Donegal over the past week. On Wednesday last, at around 1:45 midnight, a man sustained substantial injuries to his head and hand outside a licensed premises in Milford. Meanwhile, following a verbal dispute between 2 men in the main street area of Raphoe, 1 man was physically assaulted just before 9 o'clock in the morning. Funding has been confirmed for the HSE to carry out a feasibility study of the site proposed for the Lifford Community Nursing Unit. The site is part of a council-owned plot of land on the outskirts of Lifford, which will also see social housing and business units developed there. Investigations are continuing after damage was caused to a house in Lifford last week. At around 1:15 on Tuesday afternoon last, the front window of the property in Beechwood Grove was smashed, while damage was also caused to the front door. Entry was not gained to the house. Meanwhile, Gardaí are seeking to identify 2 men witnessed damaging a car in the Ludden area of Buncrana. At around 10:10 on Sunday night, March the 19th, the pair dressed in dark tracksuits with their hoods up were observed damaging the tyres of a white Mini. Gardaí are appealing to anyone who has any information, including dashcam footage, to contact them. And the Donegal Donkey Sanctuary has launched a fundraising campaign as it is running dangerously low on supply. 98 donkeys are currently being cared for at the facility, with an additional 37 waiting to be housed there. Those are the latest headlines. We'll be back with an update again at 12 noon.
At McDonald's, the county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
The one and only Tom Jones is back, and we're going to be there. Join us as Highland Radio hit the road to see the timeless legend as he headlines Belsonic 2023, Friday 16th of June. Your trip includes luxury transfers, bed and breakfast in the 4-star Clayton Hotel Belfast, and your standing ticket to the outdoor event. Contact us today on 074 9125,000 to see Tom Jones at Ormo Park, Belfast, Friday 16th of June.
At ESB Networks, we're connecting Ireland to a clean electric future. And as part of the National Smart Metering Programme, we're now installing smart electricity meters in your area. Your new smart meter will reduce the need for estimated bills, help you to manage your electricity usage more efficiently, and enable you to access smart electricity products and services. We'll contact you before your meter is installed. Find out more at esbnetworks.ie/smartmeter.
Are you ready to experience something extraordinary? Cultural gems in Croatia, ancient temples in Asia, art in Italy. Anything and everything is possible with Travel Department. Pick a destination and a date and we'll take care of everything. Flights, accommodation, excursions, expert local guides and all that planning. For guided group tours to dream destinations, book today at traveldepartment.com and check out our special offers. Irish owned and operated for over 25 years. Travel Department. Let's see more.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin. Expressway, bringing you the time at
5 minutes past 11, and we're into the third and final hour of the 9 till noon show this morning. A very good morning to you. You can text us 086 60 25,000. That number good for WhatsApp messages as well. You can call us on 074 91 25,000. Anya and Donna Marie taking your calls outside. Donna Marie producing the show this morning as well, because as we told you earlier, Caroline and Greg are en route to Brussels, and tomorrow the show is coming live from the European Parliament building in Brussels. Greg will have a number of guests, including MEPs, people from Donegal and the Northwest who are working in Brussels, and also some TY students from Carndonagh Community School are in Brussels at the moment, and they will be joining Greg on the programme as well to give their impression as to what's happening in the European Parliament and what the European Parliament means to them. We were looking yesterday at the figures from the INMO with regards to people awaiting beds across the country. The figure this morning nationally, 679 awaiting beds. Of those, 520 on trolleys in emergency departments around the country. That figure taken at 8 o'clock this morning at Letterkenny University Hospital. 53 people were without beds at 8 this morning. Of those, 25 were on trolleys in the emergency department there. With regards to the discussion we were having on the eviction ban and landlords, a caller says if a person is lucky enough to have a house that they worked hard to buy, no government should have any authority over what a person does with it. Government should be providing affordable homes. Thank you. So says a caller. Caller says, we were talking about the cure earlier, the cure for a sprained ankle, and just got a note, we've got the caller looking for the cure sorted. Thank you for all your calls and your texts. That's the power of local radio once again, and glad to be of service there. Another one pointing to this, the issue with landlords and so on. Caller says, I put a guy out of my house. He owed me over 30,000 euro. I almost lost the home I'm living in over him. And you do hear stories like that as well at times, and that's one of the concerns, that one of the outcomes of the eviction ban being lifted is that we're going, if the eviction ban weren't lifted, we would see more and more landlords effectively leave the industry because they feel they're being treated unfairly. Now, is that an issue or not? That's we heard the perspective of our councillors earlier. Now, if you are on Facebook, you may well have seen a picture of some very distressing racist graffiti that has appeared in an area of Lifford. It's distressing, but also it's threatening. And it effectively is implicit. It's not implicitly threatening violence. Let's say it as it is. It's explicitly threatening violence to a group of people who are living in an area, and it's effectively saying, this group of people out, and if you don't leave, we'll put you out. Joined on the line by David Friel. He's the Training and Development Officer with Think Equality Donegal. David, good morning.
Good morning, Donal. How's things?
Very well indeed, thank you. David, you've seen this picture, I'm sure. It's, to say the least, it's distressing.
Yeah. Well, I suppose, Donal, since that picture has arisen, there's actually a litany of racist graffiti spray painted across the estate, and actually it's actually more explicitly violent than what you just mentioned there now. It talks about gun violence and so on, which is extremely disturbing, and no human being should be subjected to that. And I think first and foremost, when we're talking about this, Donal, it's really important to remember that there's actually people behind this. There's people that live there, have lived there for many years, from ethnic minority backgrounds. Yes, there is newly arrived people seeking asylum and refuge and so on, fleeing from war and horrendous situations. And these are the messages that are spray painted and very overtly there to see toward these individuals. And plain and simple, Donal, it meets every criteria for the definition of overt racism, towards the black community. It explicitly says black individuals. And I completely, as a Think Equality Project, and as a professional working within the Think Equality Project, and as a member of the Traveller community, I completely condemn them kind of acts. And it's very upsetting to see. I think a majority of people in the response on social media and in that community are condemning it and are very upset to see that it has been done by a small minority of individuals within that community,
Are there any indications as to who is behind it, and is there anything in terms of being able to make reports to Gardaí that perhaps we'll be able to get something done about this on a legal level?
Yeah, so I was contacting the Think Equality Project is situated within the Donegal Intercultural Platform's offices, and we have very good relationships with the community guards, Sharon and Brenda in particular. So I was speaking to Brenda this morning and just to see and liaising with the Garda Síochána in terms of, to an investigation, because it most definitely is a hate crime, and there's an insinuation and a threatening of violence within that, Donal. But I think what's really important to say as well, Donal, is that on the 21st of March was the UN Day for the elimination of racial discrimination. And we at the Donegal Intercultural Platform, in collaboration with Think Equality, are now a reporting centre. So we've also reported to ENAR, which is the Irish Network Against Racism, where you can make reports about racist incidents that happen around the country. And I think it's really important for any individuals, those who witness it, you don't have to experience it, Donal, if you witness racism happen, that you can come into our offices at St Oliver Plunkett Road, and we can support you in making the report. And the report just goes to the ENAR headquarters, and they store it and they publish a report every year about the racism that happened in the country. And most recently, Donald, from last year, the most discriminated group that faced the most racism, according to their 600 reports, was Black African, Black Irish, and Black other communities. So it's a dire, and I think, Donal, we have seen instances of support and goodwill in Donegal towards, newly arrived individuals into the county. But we do have a problem at the individual, at the systemic and institutional level with racism. And however crude this act was, I think sometimes this overt instances of racism actually, I'm hoping, will open up people's eyes in terms of the damage in discourse and movements across the country in terms of anti-asylum and anti-refugee sentiment and other forms of racism that occur within the county, but also within the country,
And as you said, it is heartening that so many people within the community of that area are actually coming out condemning this graffiti and supporting those who it's thought it's directed towards.
Yes, and I think, Donal, as a community and a county, we must continue to work together like acts of those who are residents calling out as a collective, and we must really reject racism and the expression of hate with the strength that's in our communities, and there is strength in our communities, and there is collectivity, and there is people that are calling out, and rightly so. And I think it's really important to understand that, when we think about the black community as well, Donal, we know across the globe there's been horrific instances of violence and racist acts throughout history, and it's happened contemporarily. And the trauma that this causes, the impact of this racism on individuals and their physical and mental health, to be subjected to instances like that. As I said at the very beginning, I'm a member of the traveller community. I lived in a house about approximately 3 years ago, and my house was graffitied and spray painted across the front of it. And I had a child at the time at 1 year old. I know, as a member of a minority community, how it feels to be targeted like that. And I can say with every fibre of my body, it is extremely damaging on who you are as an individual. You have concerns for your safety, you have concerns for your mental well-being, you have concerns about, how do you progress through life with your ethnicity and identity intact. There's real human beings, Donal, and I really appeal to that. There's real human beings behind it. But as I said, in terms of the efforts of the residents in the Lifford area, and I would be reminded of Martin Luther King, he says, darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. And I think we've seen an instance of that, Donal, in the Lifford area, and I want to just, really acknowledge the individuals that stood up and spoke out, because it's not easy, Donal, for individuals to speak out, especially with the discourse that's going on across the country in terms of minority groups, And I suppose, it's kind of arising from that discourse, but another point is, Donal, which I think is an important one, we're talking about the eviction ban, we're talking about ongoing crises in this country. The crisis in this country, from electricity to petrol prices to the homelessness crisis to the housing crisis, is not caused by the presence of ethnic minority groups. It's caused by the systemic policy failure of our government in this country. We've had issues. We've had issues with healthcare, housing, homelessness for many years now. And those with the power are those who sit in government. And they have the ability to make change. It's not the presence of the ethnic minorities in this county or this country that is causing these crises. And I think that's a really important message as well.
In terms of those behind this graffiti, there's two ways of looking at it. Number one, we can look at it as a couple of idiots who perhaps have got too much drink on board and they're just acting the maggot. The other way of looking at it is that this is something more sinister, and that the threats that are implicit and indeed explicit in what's being written are threats that people intend following up, and they're doing this with sinister actions and sinister motives in mind. Which of the two do you believe this is?
I think, Donal, all we have to do is look at past experience. When we talk about, if we think about general discourse or talk among people and hateful remarks and so on, and not bore listeners with the pyramid of hate, but the pyramid of hate actually documents out how these things escalate. If we look at what happened in Moville for the hotel that was the asylum centre at that time, it was burnt down. Yeah. If we look at traveller accommodation in this county, it was burnt down. So I don't think, prevention's better than cure, Donal. And I think we need to take this very seriously. And I do think, racist graffiti, we know across the globe and in this country, it's threatening and oppressive, and it's imbued with hatred and prejudice. It's a step further, Donal, from just making a hateful remark or a racist remark. It's actually an act, a racist crime in a sense. So I don't think it's just youngsters. I heard that as well, and some kind of inconsiderate people. This took time, it took thought, and it took action. So there was an intent and there was an action behind it. And I think, Donal, it's escalating, as I said, from the sentiment, the hateful remarks, the comments, the marches that are happening against ethnic minorities and newly arrived people to this country. I think if we don't have an intervention now, and we don't hear from those community leaders, especially councillors and Gardaí and all those with power in society and in this county, everyone should be standing up and condemning it. For the past 2 days, Donal, to be blatantly honest, it's been myself and yourself, Highland Radio, has contacted me, and I have come on and spoke. There has been residents of the local area that have spoken on social media, but there has been no condemnation from any other group as of yet that I have seen, and I could be mistaken in that. So there's really a responsibility on all of us who are working towards human rights and eradicating racism, and media platforms included in that, to stand up, call it out, and to make sure from the community level that there's a response and intervention put in there, not just for those who are from ethnic minority groups, but for the residents living in that estate, Donal. Can you imagine the children who are able to read that?
Yeah.
And this is why I always say no one is born racist, Donal. That's a complete lie. Racism is taught, and is taught through acts like that. That's a very crude act, a very overt act, but hateful remarks. And when they see graffiti, young children read that, and when they understand it and they internalise it, it can be deployed in different ways as they move throughout their life, because they're being learned to hate on the basis of difference. And in this case, racial difference, which I think is really, really upsetting. And also it's really upsetting that, we had the National Action Plan of Racism just launched, where there's a recognition from our government that racism is a systemic and embedded issue here in Ireland. And then we have acts like this happen. We have the BME conclusion strategy with Donegal, where organisations came together and worked really well, which was led out of the Donegal Intercultural Platform, and working to eradicate racism within our society at different levels. And we have acts like this happening, So I think, Donal, to answer your question succinctly, we need to take it very seriously. We need to call it out, and there needs to be an adequate response at the local and community level to acts of this, because it's not acceptable. And we've seen before, Donal, as well, there was anti-Ukrainian graffiti that was sprayed not so long ago as well. So we're seeing things slowly but very surely starting to escalate, and I think it's now we really need to get that early intervention in. We can't go in when the firefighting when critical incidents happen.
The caller says, I was really shocked to see just how backwards this comment is. I often think of racism as microaggressions. Well, maybe it's not microaggressions. Maybe it's actual overt aggression. Another caller says, can you ask the gentleman what we can do to help? I'm disgusted. And what we can do to help, as you say, David, is quite simple. We speak out.
Yes, we speak out, and I would say, Donal, in your home and across the dinner table, it's not the most topical conversation, but have a conversation at your table. Look at yourself and your own unconscious bias or prejudice or thoughts or values that you hold towards different communities. And that goes from travellers to Roma, to the Jewish community, to the black community, because we know, Donal, categorically that these things have been happening and have been deployed in this county and throughout the country for many years. And what I would say to people sitting back and listening today is that, we're not condemning everyone as racist. That's not the case. But we're asking people to step up and step out and start to examine, one, their own conscious bias, but also to become allies. Because you've seen, it's a perfect example of what happened here. Them acts were done. The residents came together. They spoke out about it. There was a positive response. People started to stand in solidarity, and we're addressing the problem. We're naming it, and we're addressing it at that local interpersonal level, which I think is really, really good, and shows that there is the case of positive action within local communities. There's people out there that want to be anti-racist and address these issues, which I think is really, really positive.
David Trio, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us this morning. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Donal. Have a nice day now.
You too. Pleasure as always. That's David there speaking to us from Think Equality Donegal, and a very important message. And that's David there. Now, I just want to mention the Tuesday, the 28th of March at 9 o'clock today is the closing date for taking part in the Scoil Colmcille Parents Association Easter Draw. You can buy tickets online, and you can do so online through the school and idonate.ie, as I say, until 9 tonight. A number of prizes available, including the top prize, actually. It's a very interesting top prize. It's free orthodontic treatment for one, worth up to €3,600, which is an amazing prize. It's a different one, but many, many people seeking orthodontic treatment, so that will be very, very welcome for someone. Those tickets for the Scoil Colmcille Parents Easter Draw can be secured up to tonight, 9 o'clock, online. I'm sure they're being sold around the area as well, and the draw then will be done shortly. A couple of comments that have been coming in. Caller says lifting the eviction ban will cause widespread immigration. Caller says, I've reported the sale of cocaine to my local Garda station. It seems nothing has been done. I don't understand it, and it's things like this put people off joining. Now, I want to say a congratulations to Helena, Congratulations to Patrick Joseph O'Donnell of Churchill, 80th birthday today. Patrick Joseph, have a very, very happy birthday. And that comes from all of us here on the 9 Till Noon Show. Have a great day indeed. Now, a caller says, I lived in London for 20 years. The final 10 years, I experienced awful racism as a white person on a daily basis. This is never talked about and definitely is attributing to ongoing issues. There is a divide, so claims a caller. Do the holiday draw... No, I think this is actually... Yeah, that's an instruction to me. That's not a comment from a listener. Just want to make mention of the Highland Radio Holiday of a Lifetime draw. Have you bought your tickets for the Highland Radio Mega Draw this Easter? You could win a €10,000 travel voucher with €5,000 in spending money in association with Atlantic Travel. The lucky winner can choose anywhere in the world to travel to. You can spend the €10,000 all at once, or you can take a number of holidays. Use it as you will. All you have to do is to buy a ticket at highlandradio.com. You click on the Win a Holiday button, answer a simple question, and then you choose one ticket for €10, 6 for €50, or 10 for €80. The closing date for entries is Thursday, April 6th at 11 o'clock. The draw will be live on the 9 Till Noon Show with Greg at 11 o'clock on that day. So that will be this coming Thursday week. So it's Thursday week, the 6th of April. Holy Thursday, actually, I think. And that will be 11 o'clock closing with the draw at 11:30. Making your dreams a reality. That's what we try to do here on Highland Radio. A caller says the village of Convoy is almost cut off with poor roads and potholes. How can we trust success when the little things aren't being fulfilled? So asks a caller. As you approach the bridge and roundabout, there is a derelict building. It's an eyesore. It's dangerous. Why is nothing being done about it? So, I'm not sure which building. I wonder is that there was the Greenon of Alia Hotel, which is quite close to Bridge End there, and that's in a terrible state of repair. Absolutely. Caller says, my child's been unwell since Friday night. Temperature, sore throat, visible swollen tonsils with white spots. Waited 5 hours to get an appointment with the out-of-hours GP service on Saturday morning. Went to be seen by a doctor. Was told it's only a viral infection. Plenty of fluids. If she gets any worse, take her to the hospital. I was given a letter and I was told not to come back. I was subsequently charged €60. Then I asked for antibiotics in case the child gets worse. We're 1 hour from the hospital. The hospital is very busy. The child isn't sick enough to go to hospital. So I took the child to the GP this morning, got antibiotics, and it cost another €30 to see the GP. Why is this happening? I felt that I wasn't treated seriously the first time, and the caller is just very unhappy with that service, and I suppose we always want to be happy with the services that we are using. That will always be the situation, of course. Now, I also want to make mention of something else that Highland Radio are doing, because we are... No, it's not. It isn't gone. Today's the closing date, actually. You have the chance to win 2 return flights from Donegal to Glasgow. We've teamed up with Donegal Airport for this fantastic giveaway. We're giving one lucky winner the chance to win 2 return flights from Donegal to Glasgow this summer with Logan Air. Some terms and conditions will apply. All you have to do is head over to Highland Radio's socials to enter and follow the steps. The winner will be announced on Wednesday, the 29th of March, which is tomorrow. So you can win 2 return flights from Donegal to Glasgow. You can do so via our socials, and we're on all the socials. We're at Highland Radio on Twitter, we're Highland Hub on Facebook, and we're on Instagram and Snapchat and loads of other things I don't even know exist. 27 minutes past 11. Let's take a short break.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
One of Donegal's best-loved family attractions, Oakfield Park, reopens for the season this Wednesday, March the 29th, with acres of parkland, woodlands, lakes, streams, and Ireland's longest miniature gauge railway. This Easter, have a day of fun like no other at Oakfield. Follow the clues to find the missing treasure and meet all your favourite characters along the way. The Easter Express will take you through the enchanted forest to Grandmother's Cottage to start the hunt. There's egg and spoon races, a puppet show, a disco in the Dome, and so much more, 12 to 6 daily from Friday, April the 7th to Sunday the 10th. Less than 5% of tickets remain. Book now at oakfieldpark.com.
Attention all sports fans. O'Neill Sportswear have an amazing clearance sale happening in their Strabane warehouse. For 4 days only from Thursday through till Sunday, you'll find everything you need to look and feel the best on the field. From jerseys to shorts, tees to hoodies, they've got it all. We'll see you there. O'Neill's. Live for it.
It's spring, outdoor painting season. Foy & Company are the largest stockists in the northwest of all the best quality exterior paints. Best for the exterior of your home, fencing, sheds or garden furniture. Foy's qualified in-store paint consultants are on hand to help you pick the right paint for the finish you want and the right colour to suit your home. Top names include the Fleetwood Weatherclad Exterior Collection, Dulux Weather Shield and Colour Trend to name but a few. Call into the paint department at Foy & Company, Ballybuffet or Letterkenny.
Suffering from hearing loss? At Kingsbridge Hearing Care in Ballykelly, our expert audiologists are ready to see you. Our brand new clinic location within Kingsbridge Northwest offers a full range of hearing aid provision, including enhanced hearing assessments and earwax removal treatment. So what are you waiting for? Don't let hearing loss hold you back. Call us on 028 7707 6050 or visit kingsbridgehearingcare.co.uk to book your appointment today.
Welcome back to the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. With regards to the conversation earlier about evictions, caller says, we are sitting tenants. We've been in this property for nearly 8 years. Now our landlord sent us a text message during the Christmas holidays asking us to leave by March. That's now changed to the end of April. I know that the landlord isn't registered with the RTB and hasn't officially sent us an eviction notice because of this. The house is now listed and viewings are happening soon. Can we refuse viewings? The estate agent is a friend of theirs and knows he's not registered with the RTB. Is he selling the house illegally? So asks a caller. Now, I do not have any legal competence to give any answer to a question like that, to be quite honest, but it certainly is an interesting question. Another caller asks, do I have to let Electric Ireland put a meter on my home? So asks the caller. My understanding is no. My understanding is that there are smart meters being installed around the country, but it is, as I understand it, a matter of your own choice as to whether you elect to have a smart meter installed or not. And I know there is a lot of advice online. I'm not going to give you any advice because I have absolutely no competence to give any advice, but I know certainly that there is the provision online to look it up, and I know you'll get lots of advice and conflicting advice, and you'll have some people telling you black is white and some people telling you that red is green. No doubt about that. But I mean, go online, read up on it, come to your own informed decision. Obviously, once you get online, you try to separate real information from the spoutings of people who don't necessarily know an awful lot, and sometimes that can be the hardest thing to do on the internet, as we all know. But go online, read whatever is available, take advice from people who know, and reach your own decision. But my understanding is no, they cannot force a smart meter on you. That is my understanding. Now, we are going to discuss the whole issue of health and the trolley crisis, because we're going to speak to Donal Morris. He's the CEO and founder of Red Zinc, and he believes that the technology produced by his company could help solve the current trolley crisis in the health system through the implementation of high-tech virtual wards. Donal Morris, good morning. I must say I am intrigued.
Hello, Donal. Thanks very much for the chance to come along and have a chat with you. How are you today?
Very well indeed, thank you. You believe the technology that you have in Red Zinc can help tackle this crisis in the health system, and there are many people have pricked up their ears and they're thinking, we're going to pay close attention to this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're already helping the health service. When the pandemic started, we were asked by the HSE to bring in our video platform. We have a video platform initially for wearable video for paramedics on the move. And the HSE knew about this because we did some work with them on it, on the small pilot and showcase. And then the pandemic came along very quickly after that. We did that pilot and they said, well, could you do something for the pandemic? And we reconfigured our platform to enable them to run outpatient clinics by video. And what that meant was that people didn't have to come into the hospital, and they could do some outpatient clinics by video. And we set up hundreds of HSE clinicians, physiotherapists and speech and language therapists, and lots of different outpatient clinics and doctors and occupational therapists. And all of these are set up. And that just meant then people didn't have to come into the hospital. And then if you take that a little bit further, if you think about people, they're in the hospital, and hospitals aren't really a nice place to be. And new technology is there. So as well as video, there's lots of developments now with home hospital type sensors. So small sensors that you can wear on your finger that can tell you what your oxygen rate is, little patches that you can wear on your chest, and it'll measure your heart rate. Another patch that you can wear underneath your arm, measure your temperature, blood pressure cuffs. All of these things can be linked to the video, and the person can stay at home. Not everybody, but some people can get what's called early supported discharge. So there are people in hospital who could. I'm an engineer, so I provide the technology. They have to do it under the supervision and the guidance of a doctor, obviously. But there are some people who could go home early, and they could be in their own bed at home, and they could be monitored then by nurses on video, and they could be checked, their blood pressure. Like when a nurse is on the ward, he or she walks around and they measure, the heart rate, they measure the blood pressure, they measure the, what's the SpO2, that's the amount of oxygen in your blood, and temperature, and these things can now be done at home, and it just happens by the sensors just connect by Bluetooth, and they go into the cloud platform, and the nurse can be remote and see them.
Well, I'm wearing on my wrist as we speak a Fitbit, and it's a fairly standard run-of-the-mill Fitbit. I think it costs a little more than €100. And that Fitbit will monitor my heart rate, and it'll monitor my sleep patterns, and it'll tell me how much sleep I got last night and how much oxygen saturation, and it gives me all sorts of data. The question is this: is that an indication that's coming from a cheap bit of technology on my wrist, or is that verifiable data that will be acceptable in a hospital ward? Because I would have thought the equipment that they'll be using in a hospital ward has got to be very medically precise. It's got to be tested to the nth degree, and it's got to give results they can stand over. Can you stand over results that are given by a Fitbit that someone is wearing on their arm?
I know we wouldn't be using the Fitbit for this type of process. Like, you'd be using medical grade devices, which would be more expensive, but they would have gone through the FDA and the CE marking and all of the different regulations, to make sure that they're, giving the right data. So that's what's being used now, and that's what's coming down the track. You have it on your arm, and that's a consumer grade product, and we'd be connecting professional grade products into our video platform, and we'd be looking at lots of different patient pathways that could be supported. There's Donegal is actually a leader in this. It's probably just to tell you that in Donegal they had a pilot with respiratory sensors, and what they did was patients who had what's called COPD. So this is when it's difficult for them to breathe sometimes. And normally a patient with COPD would come into the hospital, and they might spend a few days in the hospital. And with these new sensors, they were able to monitor the patients remotely, treat them remotely, and keep them out of the hospital. And that was done, I think it was last year, and Donegal is one of the leaders in it. So it's only at the pilot level, but these things can be scaled up. In the UK, they're planning to scale up 25,000 virtual beds. And that means you don't have to build houses, or hospitals rather. Mm-hmm. You don't have to have big capital programs. For every 10,000 population, they're building 50 virtual beds. So in Ireland, that would be like, 2,500 virtual beds. And this is going to happen now soon. That's going to come.
As you say, this is happening whereby the hospital can provide the patient with the correct monitors, be it respiratory, be it blood pressure, be it heartbeat, whatever. They can set up in the patient's home the monitoring systems and videos and so on. So it's a two-way process. Can you foresee this becoming a process where someone at home who needs, for instance, access to an emergency department can do so? Because we're being told you believe this can help tackle the trolley crisis, as it's being called. Now, what the trolley crisis is being called by is huge attendances in emergency departments and people facing long waits as a result. Is there a way that people can dial into the emergency department online from their own home using a standard web camera, and then perhaps get triaged and then be advised at that point whether they need to physically come in or whether they can be dealt with online?
Yeah, I mean, that's another service we have. It's called Blue Eye First, and it's designed really, if you dial a 999 112 type call, we can actually acquire the video camera of that call, and that could go into then a triage. Now, the Irish system is set up, there's obviously an ambulance dispatched and whatever, but we could work with the HSE and make new pathways for that. And you could use video triage in a 999 environment. And some patients wouldn't need to come in if they weren't an emergency that's kind of, a blue light type emergency, and they could be organized for scheduled care. So the thing about emergency departments is people are coming in because it happens at random. So something happens to you and you go to the emergency department. And sometimes, you've probably been there yourself, you can be waiting in queues and whatever else. But there are some, not everybody now, but there are some portion of the people who do arrive at emergency departments could be going into a scheduled process. They could be referred in, okay, come into the fracture clinic or come into this clinic next Tuesday at 9:30. We think you're going to be all right. And that type of process can be added to the service. And so yeah, that's definitely going to come. New technology is just enabling all of these new opportunities for the HSE.
There's a new idea within the National Ambulance Service, if I'm correct on this. It's called Pathfinder, and the idea being is that instead of dispatching an ambulance with a view toward getting you on board and getting you into the hospital, what they will do is they will dispatch an ambulance vehicle, be it a 4x4 or whatever, with 2 paramedics on board. They will come to your home and they will assess you and provide a level of treatment in your home, depending obviously on what the information over the phone has been. So, I mean, if you had that coupled with a video link with a consultant or whatever, or a senior nurse practitioner within the hospital setting, it could again, and we're always told that the aim of the HSE and the aim of every health system at this point in time needs to be to keep anyone that doesn't need to be in the hospital out of the hospital, because the problem is there are too many people going to the hospital for services which in many cases can be provided elsewhere. So your system then presumably could link in with something like that Pathfinder system, whereby once the paramedics arrive at the house, they can hook into the hospital via a video link and then get advice from that side as well.
Yeah, in fact, we already did a pilot in Sweden. We were invited into Sweden to do a pilot with Västerås Hospital. And Västerås is a rural area. And what they have is nurses who are in cars, and they do out-of-hours services to frail elderly patients. So at the weekend or at nighttime, if there's an issue. So it's very similar to Pathfinder. But what they do is sometimes they would call on a doctor in a car. So there'd be a nurse in one car, and they'd go to visit the frail elderly. But sometimes that nurse would need oversight support from a GP level or even from the emergency department. So the pilot that we did with them in Västerås in Sweden was that the nurse would wear one of our wearable video cameras, and if she or he was treating a frail elderly patient and they needed the doctor, the doctor would be able to see the environment. And it's a very big county. Västmanland is very big in Sweden, long distances. So the doctor could be, an hour driving somewhere, but in 2 minutes they would see it on video. And the point of our wearable video camera is that it's hands-free. So if you're using a smartphone, you have to hold the smartphone up and point it around. But these cameras are we wear them on the head on a kind of a sports band, like a tennis sports band, and the camera's connected to that, and then then your hands are free, and wherever you look, if you move to the left or look at the patient's leg or whatever, then it's all visible. So these things are all coming. We've been working with the European Commission on a lot of the future 5G, future internet 5G pilots, and all of these things are now available for the Irish Health Service and abroad.
So are you in discussion with the HSE and with the hospital groups, be it South or some of the other groups, with a view towards getting your systems into operation here, because I mean there is no doubt anything that can help ease the pressure on the hospitals and help ease the pressure in particular on the emergency departments is going to be very welcomed indeed. Just today we've had the figure that as of this morning there were over 50 people awaiting beds at Letterkenny University Hospital, 25 of them on trolleys in the emergency department, and that's what happened this morning at 8 o'clock, less than a kilometre away from where I'm sitting.
Exactly, yeah. And like we looked at it, if you look at nationally, the last time I looked, there was about 500. At the peak in Christmas time, there was over 900. And the HSE senior leadership team are obviously want to deal with this, and they want to be on top of it. So yeah, we're in discussions with them, to get this off the ground. We obviously have the outpatient clinic services working. We're looking at now how we can help with virtual wards and home hospital. And we're talking to the right people who can organise that. And then, of course, with the ambulance service as well, we're looking to see how we can help with Pathfinder. So there's a huge number of opportunities. Every time we talk to a clinician with our technology, they come up with a different use case. So we've loads and loads of different use cases that have been piloted all over Europe, from earthquake support and disaster recovery to urban search and rescue to teaching. Loads of them, yeah. So they're all available now to be used.
Donal Morris, CEO and founder of Reds Inc. Thanks very much indeed for speaking to us this morning. It's a really fascinating piece, actually, and it'll be really good to see systems like this coming into our hospitals, because anything that eases that pressure and anything that stops people having to wait 15, 16 plus hours in an emergency department can only be a good thing. I've no doubt you'll be on this show again in the future, Donal, but for now, thank you very much indeed.
Okay, Donald, thanks a lot. Have a good day.
You too. It has been our absolute pleasure. This is the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. I'm looking out my little window and I see the wonderful face of Kieran O'Donnell sitting out there. And as we said, because Greg and the team are in Brussels for a special broadcast tomorrow, we're pulling Kieran in 24 hours early. Business matters after this break.
Do you currently have vacancies that need urgently filled? Have you tried various ways to find new staff but didn't succeed? Let Highland Radio help you source and fill your current vacancies in the most cost-effective way. Simply sign up to our new job spot and we will tell our listeners about your vacancies both on air and online. Every Monday, Wednesday and Friday during our primetime shows, we will broadcast the latest job opportunities across the Northwest and into counties Derry and Tyrone. All job listings will be available online at highlandradio.com. For more information, contact the advertising team on 07491 25322 or email advertising@highlandradio.com. Highland Radio, we're here for you.
This Saturday, 1st of April, at the all-new Pulse venue Letterkenny. In the live venue, it's Jim Devine and his full band. In the main club, international DJ Shane Codd. Pay at the door. This Saturday night at the all-new Pulse venue Letterkenny.
Keep your car or van running smoothly with a service at Hegarty's Ford in Letterkenny. Not only will it minimise the risk of a major repair expense, but it will be logged in your vehicle's service handbook and help its resale value. Hegarty's also offer everything from new and pre-owned car sales to parts and body repairs in their approved body shop. Book a service online this month and save €30 when you use the code FORD30. You're always in good hands at Hegarty's Ford, Carnamugga, Letterkenny. See hegartys.com.
Super Value makes saving money as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. We match Aldi on the products you love. 2. Great special offers like Super Value Fresh Irish Sirloin Steak, now half price. Santa Rita 120 Cabernet Sauvignon, now €8. And 3. Money off vouchers every week on the app. So, follow the 1, 2, 3 and save money at Super Value. Enjoy alcohol responsibly.
Sunsoak in Mexico with TUI. Fly direct to Cancun from Dublin and save up to €400 per person. Holiday sorted. TUI. Live happy. Offer T's and C's apply.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Lanzarote is back. Check out our new summer flights to Lanzarote with Ryanair starting March 28th. Ireland West Airport. Don't just take off, take it easy.
And Metirin are telling us that it's going to get an awful lot better. It was a very cloudy and damp start today with outbreaks of rain and drizzle. Still some rain and drizzle about, but that's going to continue to ease as we get into the afternoon. We're going to see some sunny spells, a few showers though. And after a blustery start with moderate to fresh and gusty south to southwest winds, those winds are starting to ease and will continue to ease into the afternoon. And I can tell you this afternoon, it's going to be mild with top temperatures of 12 to 15 degrees Celsius. And given that we were spraying de-icer onto our cars yesterday morning, hitting 15 degrees Celsius this afternoon is a very, very welcome change indeed. As I said, Kieran's here, which means it's time for this.
Business Matters in association with the ATU Donegal Faculty of Business. Are you a senior manager in the private sector looking to reinforce your leadership skills? ATU are offering a Level 9 Executive MBS in Leadership and Innovation based around action learning starting late April. Take the next step in your career and contact the Exec Ed Coordinator on 9186206 today or email donald.hannigan@atu.ie.
This is the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio, and as we said, it's time for Business Matters. Delighted to be joined in studio by Kieran O'Donnell. Kieran, good morning.
Good morning, Donal.
Great to see you. I was delighted, I must say, to hear from our mutual friend Chris Ashmore that the Lifford Greyhound track reopened this week.
Indeed, Greyhound racing has returned, Donal, as you say, to Lifford at the weekend, and that's after a 4-year break. So the old facility closed back in August 2019 after 60 years of racing, and an estimated 70 new jobs will be created through its reopening. So the grand opening is planned for the stadium this Sunday, the 2nd of April, Donald. So good news for the area as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I was saying to you off air that, I mean, it's been, for many years, it was our family's kind of first choice in terms of going out for a night out. You just put 20 quid in one pocket and say, right, I'm prepared to lose that. And you go in, and if you want a bite to eat, the food in there was as good as most restaurants you'll find in the Northwest, and a great night out.
Yeah, a great alternative.
Yeah, absolutely. TY students visiting their local credit union and hopefully learning how important the credit union is.
Yeah, a focus group of TY students from Abbey Vocational School visited Donegal Credit Union on Friday as part of the Green Agenda project. So the students enjoyed an informative presentation from Remtech Consulting on energy efficiency and on energy usage within the credit union building. They were also given a tour of the credit union and had the opportunity to look for potential areas of energy saving within the building.
And that's important because, I mean, the credit union is such an important institution. And it's always great to acknowledge that the Northwest, and in particular the late John Hume, played a huge role in promoting the credit union, getting credit unions up and running. And, you know, there is a great tradition of it here, and it has done so much for so many people, certainly myself and my family included. And I'm sure the families of most people who are listening out there at some point have had interactions with and worked with the credit union. It's a phenomenal facility.
Yeah, and they're very good too, Donal, at reaching out to local schools. Even here, from our own experience, Letterkenny, and that's another example down in Donegal town. So it's good that it's very much across community, and obviously there's an educational aspect to it as well.
Yep. Killybegs College among award winners. ATU Donegal in the news again for the right reasons.
Yeah, ATU Killybegs scooped awards at the Cork Sugarcraft competition held earlier this month at the Cork International Hotel. Sean Bovard, a third-year culinary arts student, won a bronze medal at the best in class with his Woodland Forget-Me-Not submission. And Carol McNulty, a lecturer at ATU Killybegs, got best in his class category and claimed the silver medal with Mother as reclaiming submission. So Sean and Carol were also successful, Donal, at the KTEX event held in Dublin.
Woodland Forget-Me-Not. What's for dessert, Mum? Woodland Forget-Me-Not. It amazes me, the creativity of people that work particularly. And I mean, I've seen some of the Sugarcraft work that gets done, and it looks amazing. You don't know whether to eat it or put it into an art gallery. I mean,
it's working on it, I don't know whatever they're doing.
Absolutely. Still tastes lovely though. Donegal, the cheapest county in which to buy a house. Now, it's all relative, obviously, given the way the prices have been rising, but still, if you want to buy, maybe this is the place to be considering buying.
Yeah, Donegal is still the cheapest county in Ireland to buy a 3-bedroom semi-detached house, and that's despite having the biggest quarterly price rise of 3.4%, latest figures have revealed. So according to the Irish Independent Real Estate Alliance House Price Index for March 2023, the average price of a 3-bed in Donegal was 150,000. The latest survey also showed that properties in Donegal reached the sale agreed stage in an average of 4 weeks, which I thought was quite quick.
And we spoke earlier about restaurants and good food. One of the better known restaurants in Donegal over the decades has been the Water's Edge in Rathmullen, a beautiful spot in which to eat with unparalleled views, and it's on the market.
Yeah, it's been placed on the market, though, as you say. The well-known business comprises a 10-bedroom guest house with a lounge bar and a restaurant with a capacity to seat around 100 diners, and the sale of that property is being handled by daft.ie.
Now, time for the podcast, and a man whose name gets mentioned regularly on Highland Radio because he's been involved in various entertainment events that Highland's also been involved in.
Yeah, on this week's Business Matters, Donal, I talked to the founder of Joe Gallagher Entertainment based in Strabane, Joe Gallagher. Joe took his first steps in the entertainment business as a 14-year-old DJ, and his work subsequently took him to Norway, Denmark, Switzerland and Greece. He set up Joe Gallagher Entertainment in 1983 and has worked with the biggest names in the world of music. He managed the Drifters for 10 years and is currently looking after the 25th anniversary tour of Michael Flatley's Lord of the Dance that commenced in Dublin last month. In this clip, Donal, Joe talks about the fickleness of the entertainment industry.
It's not easy. This is not for the faint-hearted. But when I was doing Soap Stars and doing the dance acts and Radio 1 DJs and things, occasionally you would get offered other things that I knew absolutely nothing about. Did I set out to do this? No. Eamon McCann, who I still do a lot of business with from Wonderland Promotions, he was very friendly with a guy called Jim Gallagher. Now, Jim owned and run probably 18 or 20 nightclubs, and I was lucky because I was one of his probably favourite DJs, and he put me around all the clubs. But when he knew that I was bringing in dance acts, he booked them all off me. So I used to ring him and he goes, "Oh, just send me through the dates, I'll put them in a club and you look after it." And him and McCann and me got together in Belfast and we started booking things and starting having fun. And McCann, he said to me, "Look, I'm touring Paul Brady, do you want to do Strabane?" I was amazed we'd done the Melman Centre in Strabane and we had to cancel. There was no tickets sold for Paul Brady. We went down to Derry to the Rialto and there was probably 300 Strabane people at it. So that shows you how fickle this business is.
Fascinating stuff, and anyone that has an interest in entertainment will really get some insights out of that. And you know, as someone who's been involved in, when I was younger, I was involved in a youth club and we put a few things on. And you know, one of the scariest things to do is to organise something. And then to say, right, we're going to organise it. We have everything organised. Let's put the tickets on sale. And then you sit back and you start watching the tickets not move. And it can be a very, very scary place.
Yeah, it's very much taking a chance business. But look, he's had it a long time, don't want to say. He started off as a DJ, as work took him abroad and came back. When I was over in his office there, up on the wall, the discs and the things that have been presented to him from... They're just countless big names. So, look, Michael Flatley is the big project for him at the minute. That's a major, major undertaking, and that's a worldwide tour. Elton John is the next up on a local basis, and he's just finished with Rod Stewart.
Yeah, and we know he was heavily involved in the Creasla concert there in January that you yourself were involved with. So you would have worked with him on that yourself, Kieran, so you know exactly how much work he puts in. Yeah,
look, Joe has a very good way with him and has a very good way with artists, and look, he's at it a long time, and as you say, putting on an event, entertaining the masses, is a thing he's done for a long time, and it's a thing he's done extremely well.
Well, you can listen to that full interview on the podcast of Business Matters, which is available to download now on highlandradio.com, a whole 24 hours early because of tomorrow's European Parliament special. And also, Kieran, it'll go out on air on Sunday evening.
Yeah, after the 6 o'clock news, Donal, on Sunday evening.
And if someone wants to get in touch with the programme?
Yeah, drop me an email, please, Donal, businessmatters@highlandradio.com.
Kieran O'Donnell, a pleasure as always. Thank you very much indeed. That's our Business Matters slot, and you can listen to Joe Gallagher's piece there, as we said, on our website, highlandradio.com, and it's available there. Now, before Kieran came into us, we were speaking to Donal from Red Zinc about the use of technology in terms of the health system. Now, caller has said technology should only ever be used to guide clinical practice and never to replace face-to-face assessment. It's excellent to have technology at home, but my opinion is it should come with the community nurses or doctors to provide face-to-face care in the community. If a patient needs that level of technology, they need assessment and support. Perhaps they don't need admission, but they would certainly need care in the community. I think we should be focusing more on GP surgeries and community nursing teams to ensure they're equipped, skilled and willing to respond to their patients, as there seems to be real issues there, particularly and presently for various reasons, that ultimately have a knock-on effect on our hospitals. Now, I would have to say I can't disagree with much of what you say. The idea would be, though, that in cases where you do this, you are monitoring. As soon as there's any sign from the monitoring that there is intervention intervention needed, you then have nurses and doctors on standby to do that. But maybe it's a matter of finding that balance. Can you please thank the listener who took the time to send in the email about their experience with home helps? A lot of this resonates. It's similar to what I'm experiencing at the moment. At least I know we're not the only people to experience this. Now I know where I can go to help. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that service and support. Might be good indeed to have someone on to explain the pros and cons of smart meters for those who can't make up their mind. Not everyone can access online info. That is fair enough. And we are indeed going to reach out to Electric Ireland and see if we can get more information. Another caller saying, I got a letter from Electric Ireland effectively telling me they were coming to fit the smart meter. I didn't request it, nor was permission asked. One final before we go for a break. I had an awful experience driving between Lifford and Derry. I went to swerve around a pothole, ended up in an even bigger pothole, absolute nightmare. Baby fast asleep in the back of the car. The hole in the road caused the car to have a blowout. Thankfully, everyone was okay. Scary stuff indeed. And that's it from the 9 till noon show for today. As we said, Greg broadcasting tomorrow live from the European Parliament in Brussels. Thank you to Anya. Thank you to Donna Marie for producing. Thanks to all our contributors. Most importantly, thanks to you for listening. Have a good day.
Join me, Marty Friel, every Friday night from 8 for Rockin' Hits on Highland Radio in association with Arena 7, where you can enjoy dinner and drinks in a Woodbury Grill, Bar and Restaurant before bowling